Chapter 822. Young man, don't be nervous. We have no ill intentions towards you. This is the ghost village in the ghost domain. At this moment, the village chief looked at Murong Yu and said with a smile, "Existence in the ghost domain? Ghost village?" Hearing the village chief's words, Murong Yu's heart suddenly churned like a river overturning the sea. Although he did not have a deep understanding of the ghost domain, Murong Yu had a rough idea of what kind of place the ghost domain was from the words of the peak late true god stage, Linghu Changtian. It was definitely a dangerous place that made countless gods tremble in fear. However, at this moment, he was in the depths of the ghost domain, and it was a village in the depths of the ghost domain. There was a village in the ghost domain. Murong Yu was shocked at that moment. At the same time, he looked at the three people in the village. With this look, Murong Yu almost fainted. The three of them were very powerful, although they looked like ordinary people. However, Murong Yu was still sensitive enough to sense the subtle fluctuations coming from their bodies. These fluctuations were not obvious, but Murong Yu could feel that the aura coming from the three of them was countless times stronger than that of Linghu Changtian. In other words, they were at least heavenly gods, much stronger than Linghu Changtian. It was fine if the village chief was powerful. After all, his age was there. However, the strength of Xiao Xian and Little Tian. The two of them looked like they were not even 20 years old, but in fact, their real age was also the same. They were not even 20 years old, and they had already surpassed the true god stage. They could possibly reach the heavenly god stage, or even stronger. How could this not make Murong Yu faint? In fact, in the divine realm, not everyone was a god. There were also mortals in the divine realm. Of course, the mortals they were talking about were only immortal-level existences. These people were the natives of the divine realm, and the divine realm had recognized their existence when they were born. Therefore, the divine realm did not suppress them. Therefore, although their realm was not high, they could live freely in the divine realm. Moreover, because this was the divine realm, their cultivation was extremely fast when they were in the true god stage. Most of them could pass the god tribulation and enter the true god stage. Only the unlucky ones would be blasted into ashes by the divine tribulation. However, Murong Yu also knew that although their cultivation was easy in the early stages, once they reached the true god realm, their cultivation speed began to slow down. However, ascenders were different. The true god realm was just the starting point for ascenders. Most of the ascenders could easily surpass the true god realm and reach the true god realm or even higher realms. Heaven was still very fair. The natives of the god world cultivated extremely quickly in the early stages, and almost all of them could become gods. But in the later stages, their potential seemed to have been exhausted. Ascenders, on the other hand, found it difficult to cultivate in the early stages, but after becoming gods, everything was just the beginning. These were all things that Murong Yu had learned from Hichu. Indeed, we are in the depths of the ghost domain. I was the one who saved you. Xiao Xian could not help but snort when she saw Murong Yu's shocked and confused expression. Murong Yu looked at Xiao Xian and realized that she was an extremely cute and beautiful little girl. Unfortunately, she was still an unripe apple. Vaguely, Murong Yu realized that Xiao Xian's figure overlapped with a figure in his mind. That was the blurry figure that he saw before he fainted. "It was you guys who saved me. Thank you." Murong Yu heaved a sigh of relief and sincerely thanked the three of them. If it was not for them saving him, Murong Yu would have died in the strange ghost domain. "All right, young man, since you're already awake, you can walk around the village. Remember, do not leave the village. It is very dangerous outside. Moreover, I see that you are an ascender who has not condensed a god lattice. The god Yuan Qi in the village is not bad. You can condense a god lattice in the village. You can stay here for the time being." The village leader said indifferently and left without waiting for Murong Yu's thanks. "Big brother, I will accompany you to walk around the village." Xiao Xian smiled, revealing her cute little dimples. She stepped forward and pulled Murong Yu to leave. "I will go back and cultivate first." Xiao Tian rolled her eyes and left. Murong Yu had many doubts in his heart. Seeing that Xiao Xian took the initiative to invite him, he naturally agreed. After walking out of the house, Muronyu realized that this place was different from what he imagined. Not a small mountain village, but a small city. Along the way, Muronyu met many people. The people here were all very ordinary, like the residents of a small city in the mortal world. However, Muronyu knew that this existence called Ghost Village was definitely not simple. Every seemingly ordinary person contained a terrifying power in their bodies. They are all experts. Muronyu smiled and greeted those people in a friendly manner. These people were very friendly and approachable. When they saw Muronyu, they would always smile and greet him. After walking around Ghost Village, Muronyu realized that although Ghost Village was not big, there were at least tens of thousands of people. Moreover, each of them was extremely powerful. Muronyu could only see through those children. Moreover, there were very few of them. What kind of village is this? Everyone is so powerful. Could it be that this is no longer the primordial wilderness continent? Muronyu was shocked. He knew the situation in the immortal realm. In the immortal realm, there were a total of 4 supercontinents. Other than these 4 supercontinents, there were also some small continents. Of course, the so-called small continents were only compared to the vast and boundless immortal realm. For example, the primordial wilderness continent that Muronyu was in was only a small and remote continent in the immortal realm. However, the primordial wilderness continent was many times bigger than the Yanhuang immortal realm. Even the smallest continent in the immortal realm was many times bigger than the immortal realm. Moreover, the continents in the immortal realm had different levels. From level 1 to level 4, level 1 continents were the weakest, just like the primordial wilderness continent. It was only a level 1 continent. Every level of continent would have restrictions on the immortals on the continent. Cultivating on a level 1 continent would only allow one to reach the peak of the late-stage quasi-god realm. If one wanted to break through to the heavenly god realm, one would have to leave the primordial wilderness continent and go to a higher level continent. This was just like the immortal realm and the immortal realm. It would increase with each level. Xiao Xian and the rest had definitely surpassed the true god realm. Therefore, Muronyu suspected if they were still on the primordial wilderness continent. Big brother, you seem to have a lot of questions. Ask me what you want to know. I will definitely not hide anything from you. Xiao Xian smiled and looked at Muronyu. Muronyu was instantly overjoyed. I can feel that all of you have surpassed the true god realm. Could it be that we are no longer in the primordial wilderness continent? What kind of place is the ghost realm? What kind of place is the ghost village? Muronyu spoke out almost all of his doubts. Xiao Xian felt a headache coming on. Hee, big brother Murong, your strength isn't strong, but your senses are still very strong. Little Xian's strength isn't strong either. I'm just a heavenly god. Little Xian said with a smile. Muronyu rolled his eyes. Heavenly God realm was not strong. If they went out of the ghost realm, they could sweep the entire primordial wilderness continent by themselves. The ghost village is indeed in the ghost realm, and the ghost realm is indeed in the primordial wilderness continent. As for our village, it is a very strong village. Big brother Morong, do you think our existence is strong? Are we strong? Xiao Xian smiled and said to Muronyu. Muronyu nodded. Although he did not know how strong the people here were, he felt that the ghost village was very strong. However, he had a feeling that the strength of the specter village was absolutely terrifying. Compared to the entire divine world, the specter village was probably not a weak force. Our ghost village is very strong. Many of the people in the village are outside. There are only a small number of people left in the village. Big brother, you must be shocked, right? Xiao Xian smiled proudly when she saw Murongyu's shocked expression. Murongyu was indeed shocked. Moreover, he knew that Xiao Xian did not know much. Moreover, she did not tell him everything. His intuition told him that the ghost village was an extremely terrifying existence. Big brother Morong, you are an ascender from the Yanhuang immortal realm, right? Uncle Lin is also from the Yanhuang immortal realm. He is in the village now. Shall we go and see him? Although Xiao Xian was asking Muronyu, she had already grabbed Murongyu's hand and walked away without Murongyu's consent. This made Murong-yu speechless. However, he was still willing to go and see Uncle Lin. They were ascenders from the same immortal realm. They could be considered fellow villagers. Boom! However, when they were halfway there, an earth-shattering sound was heard. At this moment, Murong-yu even realized that the entire village was shaking as though there was an earthquake. Even the sky seemed to be shaking. Murong-yu was so shaken that his blood was boiling. He was almost sent flying and his face turned pale. At the same time, Murong-yu saw that the villagers of the ghost village, who originally looked like ordinary people, were emitting terrifying auras. One by one, they rushed to the sky and flew in the same direction. Oh no, the village is being attacked by demons again. Big brother, why don't you go back first? I will go and see if I can help. Xiao Xian said to Murong-yu anxiously, after which she flew into the sky and left quickly. Demons attacking the village? Murong-yu's heart skipped a beat. Phantom light wings appeared on his back, after which he flapped and flew in the direction of the loud sound. He wanted to see what kind of demon it was. More importantly, he wanted to know how strong the ghost village was. Chapter 823. Boom, boom, boom. A series of deafening sounds could be heard along with a huge impact. Even the void started to tremble. The buildings in the entire spirit village seemed to be shaking as well. What a terrifying impact. And this is because the spirit village has a huge protective shield. Murong-yu flapped his illusory light wings and flew at high speed. However, his blood and chi were in turmoil from the impact. Young man, the demonic beasts outside are powerful. You had better not go near. Hurry up and go back. Along the way, Murong-yu saw many people flitting past him. When these people saw Murong-yu transforming into wings and flying in the sky, they looked at Murong-yu in shock. However, they still advised Murong-yu not to go over. Murong-yu thanked these people for their kind intentions and continued to dash over. Not long after, he arrived at the place where the deafening sounds came from. At this moment, a large number of people had gathered in front of him. Outside, a gigantic demonic beast that was thousands of feet long was circling in the sky. It was roaring crazily and unleashing a terrifying force that was charging towards the spirit village. However, the force of the gigantic demonic beast did not hit the protective shield of the spirit village. Therefore, there were more than 10 experts circling in the void outside the protective shield. Some of them went close to the protective shield of the spirit village to prevent the residual force from hitting the protective shield. Another 7 to 8 people were engaged in a fierce battle with the gigantic demonic beast. Dragon. When Murong-yu saw the gigantic demonic beast, he could not help but exclaim. That was because it was a dragon. A black gigantic dragon. That's not a dragon. It's just a dragon beast. It's a monster that was born from the cross between the dragon race and the demonic beast. It's ferocious and loves to eat human flesh. A voice was heard. Murong-yu turned around and saw Xiao Xian flying towards him with a smile on her face. Brother Murong, you can actually form wings. You can fly in the realm of the gods, even though you haven't formed a godhead. That's amazing. Looking at the huge wings on Murong-yu's back, Xiao Xian's eyes sparkled with a bright light. Her face was full of envy. Murong-yu nodded slightly. He did not even speak to Xiao Xian. His attention was completely focused on the battle outside. That dragon beast was extremely powerful. As he stood there, Murong-yu could sense that most of its aura had been blocked by the protective barrier of the spirit village. He almost felt like submitting to it. It was not that Murong-yu wanted to submit to a demonic beast, but that demonic beast's aura was simply too strong. Murong-yu even knew that without the protective shield of the ghost village, not to mention being tens of thousands of miles away from the dragon beast, he would not even be able to get close to it within a few billion miles. He might even be crushed into dust by the pressure of the dragon beast. Compared to the dragon beast, Linghu Changtian's peak true God realm power was nothing. With Linghu Changtian's strength, he would have been killed by this dragon beast glare. Of course, Murong-yu's strength was not as good as Linghu Changtian's. This dragon beast is so strong. I wonder what realm it has reached. However, the 8 experts from the Ghost Village are not to be trifled with. They are actually fighting with the dragon beast, and they are not at a disadvantage. The battle in front was extremely far and fast. With Murong Yu's current strength, he could not see the details clearly. However, he also knew that the 8 powerhouses were only evenly matched with the dragon beast. In actual fact, Murong Yu could faintly feel that the 8 experts' strength should be about the same as the dragon beast. However, the dragon beast's body was simply too strong. Just a while ago, Murong Yu clearly saw an expert from the Ghost Village land a punch on the dragon beast's body. However, the dragon beast was only moved a few dozen miles away from the impact. However, the expert who attacked was sent flying by the rebounding force. The heavens fell and the earth cracked. The mountains and the earth were constantly flattened and shattered. Even the extremely sturdy void of the divine world was destroyed by them. It could be seen how terrifying their strength was. This is what a battle between experts should be like. Murong Yu's eyes flickered with excitement. He could not wait to rush up and fight with the dragon beast. However, he also knew that this was just a thought in his heart, not to mention fighting with the dragon beast. As long as he stepped out of the protective shield of the Ghost Village, he would be shattered into pieces by the terrifying aura. Xiao Xian, what realm has the dragon beast reached? It is so terrifying. It should be the most powerful demonic beast in the ghost realm. Moreover, the Ghost Village seems to have many experts. Why don't they all go out and kill the dragon beast together? Murong Yu turned his head and asked Xiao Xian, who was watching the battle outside with great interest. You mean the dragon beast is the most powerful demonic beast in the ghost realm? Xiao Xian looked over and smiled, revealing her pair of dimples. She said, the dragon beast is just a low-level demonic beast in the ghost realm. There are many more that are stronger than it. Murong Yu almost fainted. This seemingly powerful dragon beast was just the lowest level demonic beast in the ghost realm. If the lowest level demonic beast was so powerful, then how powerful would the most powerful demonic beast be? The ghost realm was really terrifying. No wonder Linghu Chantian was so scared after knowing about the ghost realm. Any demonic beast that came out of the ghost realm was enough to wipe out a first-grade continent like the Yuan Huang continent. Even second-grade and third-grade continents could be wiped out. That middle-aged man is Uncle Lin. He is very powerful. Back then, he had a great battle with one of the most powerful demonic beasts in the ghost realm. He killed the most powerful demonic beast. Xiao Xian said proudly to a middle-aged man who was floating in the air outside the protective barrier. Murong Yu looked over and saw a very ordinary-looking man. He did not emit any powerful aura. However, this person was able to kill one of the most powerful demonic beasts in the ghost realm. Obviously, his strength was very terrifying. After all, if the Ghost Village wanted to survive in the depths of the ghost realm, there must be a powerhouse to hold the fort and deter those demonic beasts. And that Uncle Lin should be one of those super powerhouses. Xiao Xian, what realm is that dragon beast in? Murong Yu asked again. Big brother Murong, do you really want to know? Xiao Xian looked at Murong Yu with a smile and asked. Murong Yu nodded. I said, big brother, you have to stand firm, okay? Xiao Xian smiled cutely at Murong Yu, then said, the dragon beast's realm is not strong. It's only at the overgod realm, but it's much stronger than Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian is no match for it at all. As she said that, Xiao Xian seemed a little depressed. Overgod realm, and it was not strong. Murong Yu almost fainted. One should know that in the God realm, there were a total of 10 major realms. From low to high, they were deity, true God, heavenly God, and then the overgod realm. And after the deity realm was the sky realm. After entering the sky realm, one would be considered a true expert in the God realm. However, to Murong Yu, any true God was an expert, because now any true God could kill him. No wonder its aura is so strong. So it's the overgod realm, and it's only the lowest level of demonic beasts. Doesn't this mean that the powerful demonic beasts in the ghost realm have reached the highest realm in the God realm? Hee hee, big brother Murong, are you scared? But don't be discouraged. You Ascenders have great potential. The God Realm is your starting point. Uncle Lin was also an Ascender back then, but now he has become a super powerhouse. Xiao Xian smiled and comforted Morong Yu. Morong Yu was indeed scared, but it was just a scare. It could not affect him at all. If he was so easily affected, then there was no need to pursue the highest realm and the strongest power. Why didn't Uncle Lin do anything? With Uncle Lin's strength, he can easily suppress that crazy dragon beast, right? Morong Yu asked again. Xiao Xian shook her head. Big brother Morong, you're so stupid. These low-level demonic beasts are just right to train our warriors. This is a life and death battle. It's the best opportunity to train them. And let me tell you, every once in a while, the demonic beasts in the ghost realm will riot. Sometimes, thousands of demonic beasts will besiege the ghost village at the same time. Xiao Xian, what's going on in the ghost realm? That dragon beast seems to be a little different from normal ones. Morong Yu finally saw it. That terrifying demonic beast seemed to be controlled by someone. Or it could be said that the dragon beast had lost its mind. All the demonic beasts in the ghost realm are like this. Every once in a while, they will go crazy. Also, many demonic beasts have lost their minds. We don't know what's the reason. Ghost realm, ghost realm. Could there really be ghosts in it? This thought suddenly appeared in Morong Yu's mind. Roar, roar. At this moment, after a round of battle, the dragon beast was no match for the 8 overgod level experts of the ghost village. It started to be defeated. Once the dragon beast was defeated, the warriors of the ghost village really went crazy. They killed the dragon beast until it cried out loudly. In the end, the dragon beast even wanted to escape. However, the people of the ghost village would not let it escape so easily. From the moment it attacked the ghost village, it was destined to have only one ending: death. Finally, the 8 warriors unleashed their invincible might and killed the dragon beast with brute force. Then, the 3 of them grabbed the dragon beast and walked into the village. Big brother Morong, you're in luck. The dragon beast meat is very delicious. Today, we can taste the dragon beast meat again. Thinking about the delicious dragon beast meat, I can't help but drool. Xiao Xian looked at the huge dragon beast with a greedy look. The dragon beast meat contains an extremely large amount of divine power. Eating a little will help you condense your godhood and strengthen your physical body. But remember, don't eat too much. Come to my house when you're free. We can have a good chat. Uncle Lin appeared beside Morong Yu and left after leaving this sentence. Chapter 824. This dragon beast meat is indeed delicious. At night, everyone in the village gathered together to eat the flesh of the overgod-level dragon beast they had just killed today. As he ate, Morong Yu exclaimed in admiration. He'd never eaten such delicious meat before. Moreover, Morong Yu realized that the dragon beast meat was not only delicious. The dragon beast meat contained a large amount of divine power. In addition to divine power, it also contained other surging powers. Morong Yu had just eaten the dragon beast meat when the energy contained in the dragon beast meat spread to his limbs and bones, making his body closer to a divine body. A divine body was the transformation of a mortal to a god. In fact, Morong Yu's chaotic celestial body was many times stronger than a divine body. However, the chaotic celestial body also needed to grow. For example, Morong Yu's current physical body was many times stronger than a quasi-god's, but it was not as good as a divine body. This was because the chaotic celestial body had not yet grown to a higher level. If the chaotic celestial body wanted to continue growing, it would require Morong Yu to become even stronger. Therefore, eating this dragon beast meat was extremely beneficial to the growth of his physical body. Xiao Xian, why aren't you eating? After Morong Yu ate a few large pieces of dragon beast meat, he realized that Xiao Xian had only eaten a small piece and stopped eating. Therefore, Morong Yu was puzzled. One must know that the dragon beast was thousands of feet long and was enough to fill the stomach of tens of thousands of people in the ghost village. However, Morong Yu realized that many people present had only eaten a little and stopped eating. Is it not delicious? Xiao Xian, didn't you say it was delicious? Murong Yu asked as he ate another piece of dragon beast meat. However, he did not notice Xiao Xian. Even the people around him were looking at him strangely. What's wrong? Soon, Murong Yu felt everyone's surprised eyes. He thought that he had eaten too much, and that was why they were reacting this way. Thus, he said embarrassedly, "Isn't it because dragon meat is delicious?" Big brother Murong, you've eaten so much dragon meat. Don't you feel anything wrong with your body? Xiao Xian could not help but ask. Murong Yu was startled. He quickly checked his body, but he didn't find anything out of the ordinary. Thus, he looked at Xiao Xian curiously and asked, "Is there something wrong with eating dragon meat? But I don't feel anything strange." As he spoke, Murong Yu looked at the others. "Young man, your body is different from ordinary people. If it were an ordinary quasi-god expert, even if he only ate a little bit of dragon beast meat, his body wouldn't be able to withstand it and would explode." At this time, an uncle beside him explained to Murong Yu. However, the uncle's eyes kept sizing up Murong Yu's body, making Murong Yu's hair stand on end. It couldn't be helped. Being stared at by a man like this, it would be strange if Murong Yu didn't have this kind of reaction. Unless he was some kind of comrade. "We forgot that you're just a quasi-god, but you eat pretty fast. We just realized that you've already eaten a few kilograms of dragon beast meat. However, don't force yourself. If you feel that there's something wrong with your body, we're here. I guarantee that nothing will happen to you." The middle-aged uncle continued. Murong Yu finally understood. Dragon beasts were super experts at the Overgod realm. Even a small piece of meat contained an enormous amount of energy. Even heavenly deity realm powerhouses did not dare to eat too much. Take Xiao Xian, for example. She only ate a small piece. Even so, she needs some time to refine the energy contained in this small piece of meat. Only people who were at the Overgod realm would not be harmed by the energy contained in the dragon beast meat. Of course, the energy contained in the dragon beast meat was of no use to them. They would just eat it as an ordinary delicacy to satisfy their cravings. "Maybe it's because of my body," Murong Yu said, a little embarrassed. He didn't expect his body to be so strong. However, he also knew that although his physical body was strong, there was a limit to it. If he exceeded his limit, Murong Yu would explode and die. Since your body can take it, you might as well eat more. It's good for your divine body. However, remember not to exceed your limit. The uncle left after a few words of advice. Xiao Xian looked at Murong Yu with twinkling eyes. "Brother Murong, is your body really that strong? If you break through to the heavenly god realm, how terrifying will you be? If only my physical body was as strong as yours." Murong Yu only smiled and continued to eat a few large pieces of dragon beast meat. After that, he stopped eating. Although he hadn't reached his limit, Murong Yu didn't want to eat too much. "Xiao Xian, I'll go back first. I'll hurry up and refine my divine body and godhead." After saying goodbye to Xiao Xian and the others, Murong Yu returned to his house. It was the small courtyard where he was recuperating previously. After witnessing the strength of the dragon beast and the people of Spirit Village, Murong Yu was greatly pressured. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the people of Spirit Village, even a child, could easily defeat Murong Yu. It could be said that Murong Yu was the weakest person in the entire village. Although no one in Spirit Village looked down on Murong Yu, on the contrary, many people were optimistic about Murong Yu's future. However, this kind of strength at the lowest level still gave Murong Yu a lot of pressure. Strength was everything. After returning, Murong Yu immediately went into seclusion. However, he didn't cultivate immediately. Instead, he started to contact Hichu Luoshu and the Heavenly Punishment Order. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't contact Hichu Luoshu and the Heavenly Punishment Order. This made him a little depressed. If he didn't know that they were still in his body, Murong Yu would have thought that the two of them had left him. "Without Hichu Luoshu, I can't teleport at any time. When I'm in danger, I can't enter Hichu Luoshu to hide temporarily. I can't bring people from the immortal realm to a mortal realm. I can't accelerate time, and I can't refine pills in large quantities." Murong Yu, then realized how important Hichu Luo Shu was to him. Almost everything couldn't be done without Hichu Luo Shu. Even the heavenly punishment order couldn't be compared to Hichu Luo Shu's importance. Although the heavenly punishment order could allow him to kill villains, earn points, exchange them for various treasures, and even raise his cultivation level directly. However, he could forego the treasures and raise his cultivation level by himself. However, he couldn't do without Hichu Luoshu's various functions. Could it be because I'm not powerful enough? If that's the case, then it's even more important to raise my strength. Murong pondered in his heart and began to refine his body. When Murong calmed down, he realized that his body had become much stronger. The dragon meat that he had eaten was absorbed by the tree of life. After being refined, it was fed back to Murong's body. After being refined, the energy became pure. Under the refinement of these energies, Murong's body became stronger and stronger. He believed that in less than a year's time, his body would completely transform into a divine body. However, what he was worried about now was that he didn't know how to condense a godhead. Xiao Xian, let me ask you something. Murong cultivated for half a day, but he still couldn't find a way. In the end, he thickened his skin and looked for Xiao Xian. Brother Murong, what's the matter? I'm a know-it-all. If there's anything you don't know, just come to me if you need to know something. Xiao Xian patted her still young and underdeveloped chest and said loudly, how do I condense a godhead? Murong felt a little embarrassed. However, in order to raise his strength, he still asked. As the saying goes, one must have a teacher. If one doesn't know, one should ask. Ha ha ha. After hearing Murong's words, Xiao Xian was stunned at first. Then, she laughed out loud. She laughed so hard that she swayed back and forth. She looked very unhappy. However, Murong stared at Xiao Xian awkwardly. He wanted to smack her head. However, this was only his thought. Even if he dared to smack Xiao Xian's head with his strength, he might not be able to do it. After all, Xiao Xian was a heavenly god. Brother Murong, you're so stupid. You don't even know this? Murong rolled his eyes. If he knew, would he still need to ask? This was a classic example of bullshit. Seeing Murong's expression, Xiao Xian finally had enough of laughing. Thus, she explained, if you want to condense a godhead, you must first understand the godhead. There's actually not only one type of godhead. In fact, there are millions of them. However, they are mainly divided into the 5 elements godheads of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Other than that, there are also the light, darkness, wind, and poison godheads. There are even the legendary godheads of various laws. For example, the space godhead, the time godhead, the lightning divinity, and so on. That's right. In the god realm, the most common godheads are the 5 elements, light, darkness, and so on. Of course, in the god realm, there are as many gods as there are grains of sand in the Ganges River. Although other types of godheads are rare, there are still some. There are only godheads that you can't imagine. There are no godheads that don't exist. The key to determining the attribute of each godhead is the person's physique and comprehension when condensing the godhead. Some people, when condensing the godhead, comprehend the mysteries of wind. Then, they can condense the godhead of wind. If they comprehend other mysteries, they can also condense other types of godheads. Moreover, each type of godhead will have an additional effect when they use that type of cultivation technique. For example, if your godhead is of the fire element and your cultivation technique is of the fire element, then you will be able to unleash the full power of that cultivation technique. Of course, the power of the cultivation technique still depends on the strength of the user. Brother Murong, I haven't finished speaking. Why are you leaving? How can you be so rude? Could it be that you've comprehended something? Xiao Xian was speaking with assurance when she suddenly saw Murong turn around and leave. Thus, she was a little angry. Chapter 825. Murong had indeed comprehended something. In reality, Xiao Xian had said so much, but there was only one meaning. To condense a god lattice, one had to comprehend all sorts of laws. Only by comprehending the profoundness of all sorts of laws would one be able to condense a God lattice. Of course, Moronyu did not think that everyone in God world had comprehended all sorts of laws. For example, would someone with a wind attribute God lattice be able to control the laws of wind? That was impossible. Moronyu guessed that they would at most be able to obtain the recognition of the laws of wind. Or rather, they would only be able to borrow a portion of the power of the laws of wind. After all, there were simply too few people who could grasp a law. However, it was different for Moronyu. After returning to his house, Moronyu immediately set up a restriction outside his house. Of course, this restriction would not be able to stop the people from Spectre Village. He did not set up this restriction to stop the people from Spectre Village. The reason why he set up this restriction was because he wanted to tell others that he was in seclusion and not to disturb him if there was nothing important. This was because Moronyu already knew how to condense a God lattice. However, at this moment, he started to ponder. My control of the laws of space has definitely surpassed everyone else. It is very easy to condense a space attribute God lattice. Once I condense a space attribute God lattice, my understanding of the laws of space would rise to another level. The power of all sorts of combat techniques under the laws of space would definitely increase. However, my understanding of the laws of lightning is also not bad. Moronyu was originally able to control the lightning tribulation and could summon boundless lightning tribulation at any time. Moreover, after he became the lord of a mortal world, he researched lightning beasts and other lightning attribute demonic beasts. It could be said that although his understanding of the laws of lightning was not as good as the laws of space, it definitely surpassed the majority of people. The most important thing is my own physique. Primal chaos is the origin of all laws. Primal chaos is the strongest existence, and there is no other. Even the laws of time and space are far inferior to primal chaos. What was primal chaos? Within primal chaos, there was no time, no space, no metal, wood, water, fire, earth, etc. There is only boundless primal chaos. The power of primal chaos ruled over everything. Then I shall condense the primal God lattice. If the primal chaos God lattice was formed, wouldn't the primal chaos God lattice be several times stronger than the laws of space and time? It should be a monarch godhead. Moronyu laughed mischievously in his heart as he began to condense his godhead. If he wanted to condense a godhead, then he had to comprehend the corresponding rules and communicate with it. After obtaining its approval, he could use his power to condense a godhead. Moreover, only after passing the divine tribulation would a quasi-god in the god realm be able to condense a godhead. Generally speaking, godhood resides in the heart, Yang Qi said. It was for Godheart. However, one's body would often crumble in battle. Once the godhead was destroyed or taken away, one would instantly become a powerless cripple no matter how powerful one was. I wonder if I can condense my godhood in other places? It seems that the soul space is pretty good. The soul space was the best protected place. If even his soul space was shattered, he wouldn't be far from death. I'll condense the godhead in my soul space. Moronyu pondered for a moment, then began to communicate with the power of chaos to condense a godhead. It's a pity that I can't use these god veins and god crystals. Moronyu looked at the storage ring on his finger and sighed. Previously, Xiao Xian had given him a storage ring. There wasn't much in it, only god veins and god crystals. If he wanted to condense a godhead and god body, he would have to expend a large amount of energy. Otherwise, without sufficient energy, he wouldn't be able to condense a godhead. This was also the tragedy of many ascenders. They had just ascended and had nothing in the god realm. Therefore, it was extremely difficult for them to condense a godhead. Of course, if they joined a big sect or faction, it would be different. The Tree of Life will do. Tree of Life, communicate with the infinite chaos for me. Moronyu roared in his heart. The Tree of Life's roots, which were as numerous as the sand in the Ganges River, began to tremble violently. While absorbing the power of chaos to replenish Moronyu's body, it It also communicated with the infinite chaos. What was chaos? Yu's previous understanding was that chaos was just a kind of energy. Before the world was opened, the vitality had yet to be divided and was in a blurry state. Yu's mind was divided into countless parts. Following the roots of the tree of life, he entered the depths of chaos. At this moment, Yu finally saw the exact appearance of chaos. It was boundless. Here, there was nothing but eternal darkness. Here, he couldn't feel the flow of time, nor could he feel space, length, height, or height. There are also no so-called rules. In this place, apart from the black chaos, there was nothing else. As for the so-called world, whether it was the god realm or the immortal world, it was just a small space that was opened up in the infinite chaos. In the entire chaos, the world that was opened up was just a space that could be ignored. Big, no limit. It was really endless. Yu's mind was immediately shocked. After circling around the infinite chaos, Yu gradually came to a realization. Whether it is time, space, or other rules, or the existence of layers and layers of matter, they're all derived from chaos. Chaos is the beginning of all things. Without chaos, there is nothing. Chaos gives birth to all things, and can also destroy all things, returning them to chaos. Chaos is above everything and dominates the world. In the face of primal chaos, all laws and powers are merely his subjects. They can only submit. The rules of chaos are the most powerful, and there is no other. Chaos is infinite, infinitely big, truly boundless. At this moment, Yu entered a state of enlightenment. Then his mind seemed to be connected with the infinite chaos and became infinitely big, encompassing everything and above everything. At this moment, Yu's mind also began to undergo a tremendous change. It grew rapidly, gradually approaching the infinity of the primal chaos, the concept of infinity. His heart was infinitely big. This was a kind of state of mind, and a mental state. If he could really reach this state, his cultivation would definitely be smooth sailing and there would be no barriers. As long as he had enough power, he could continue to break through. At the same time, the tree of life also trembled rapidly, and it began to grow rapidly in Yu's dantian. Every time the tree of life grew, the amount of energy it absorbed would increase exponentially. The tree of life purified the primal chaos energy into Yu's dantian, and then it flowed through countless meridians and rushed into Yu's soul space. Countless primal chaos energy began to spontaneously condense together, and then it continued to compress. Gradually, it turned from gas to liquid, and then from liquid to solid. After an unknown amount of time had passed, a rectangular solid object that was 2 fingers wide and as long as a finger suddenly appeared in Yu's spiritual space. This was Yu's god lattice, the primal chaos god lattice, the first primal chaos god lattice in history. From afar, the primal chaos god lattice quietly floated in Yu's soul space, and it was like an eternal black. At the same time, the god lattice faintly emitted an extremely powerful and terrifying aura. However, if one took a closer look, it seemed as though the primal chaos god lattice didn't exist. However, if one didn't take a closer look, one would be able to sense the existence of the primal chaos god lattice. The primal chaos god lattice was between existence and non-existence. It seemed extremely mysterious. Rumble. Suddenly, at the moment Yu formed the god lattice, the sky above Spectre Village exploded with a deafening thunder. The terrifying and loud sound shocked countless experts in Spectre Village, following which they realized that the entire Spectre Village, and even a large part of the sky nearby, had been covered by endless black tribulation clouds. Tribulation lightning constantly brewed in the tribulation clouds, and streaks of terrifying might of heaven and earth were constantly emitted, suppressing and intimidating everything. Heavenly tribulation. Countless people in Spectre Village walked out of their houses and looked at the endless tribulation clouds in the sky. Their faces were filled with shock and uncertainty. To experts at Uncle Lin's level, the might of heaven and earth emitted by the tribulation clouds might not be worth mentioning. However, what they were shocked about was who had triggered the heavenly tribulation. One must know that in the realm of the gods, only those with heaven-defying aptitudes and talents could trigger the heavenly tribulation when they were cultivating or breaking through. There was no lack of people with heaven-defying aptitudes in Spectre Village. However, there were very few people who could trigger the heavenly tribulation. Who was it? At this moment, everyone looked at the center of the tribulation clouds. Could it be Morongyu? Everyone's figures flashed, and soon, they arrived outside Morongyu's house. At this moment, Xiao Xian was outside Morongyu's house, looking at Morongyu in shock. It's really this kid who triggered the heavenly tribulation. Could it be that he has already formed the God Lattice? How long has it been since he ascended? It hasn't even been half a month, right? Everyone was shocked, and their faces were filled with disbelief. For those who ascended or those who had undergone the heavenly tribulation in the realm of the gods, with sufficient resources, they would need at least 100 years to condense the God Lattice. For those who did not have any resources, they would spend thousands of years or even more without being able to condense the God Lattice. This was a common occurrence. Condensing the God Lattice was not difficult, and everyone who had undergone the God's tribulation could do so. However, to be able to condense the God Lattice in a few days was simply too shocking. Chapter 826. While everyone was still in shock, the tribulation lightning struck down from the sky. At the same time, a huge crack appeared on the protective barrier of Spectre Village. They didn't want to block the tribulation lightning, and they couldn't block it anyway. It would just be a waste of the protective barrier's energy. However, when the protective barrier cracked, a few experts of Spectre Village flashed and left Spectre Village. They appeared outside Spectre Village and started to be on guard. In such a situation, there was a high possibility that demonic beasts would come and take advantage of the situation. They had no choice but to do so. At this moment, Morongyu had already woken up in the room. When the chaos had just condensed, his mind had already retreated from the boundless chaos. At that time, Morongyu realized that his mind had become infinitely large. Previously, when he executed deity descent, he couldn't use it continuously. But now, Morongyu felt that it was possible for him to use deity descent continuously. Moreover, the power would definitely be many times stronger than before. Next was his primal God Lattice. The higher the realm of the god, the stronger the power contained in the God Lattice. Naturally, the greater the God Lattice would also be higher. However, Morongyu felt that his God Lattice contained an extremely terrifying power. It was far stronger than the God Lattice of young Master Linghu and the others that he had killed. Morongyu also felt that if young Master Linghu was in front of him, he would be able to kill him with a single punch. It would be clean and effortless. Heavenly tribulation. Morongyu didn't leave the room, but he could already feel the heavenly tribulation suppression. I didn't expect that when I condensed the God Lattice, my physical body would also transform and reach the so-called God Lattice. It is more compatible with the God world. Yes, I can no longer feel the suppression from the God world. As long as he condensed the God Lattice and God Lattice, the God world would officially recognize his existence and wouldn't suppress him anymore. God Lattice is only the lowest level of physical body. Chaotic celestial body can't only reach this level. I can also use the power of the heavenly tribulation to condense my physical body again. Morongyu thought as he opened the door and walked out. The moment he walked out, Morongyu was shocked, because in front of his courtyard, there was a crowd of villagers from Spectre Village. Isn't it just condensing the God Lattice and going through the heavenly tribulation? Is there a need to gather so many people? Morongyu didn't think much of it. After greeting these people, he soared into the sky. He wanted to rush out of the ghost village's protective barrier to undergo his tribulation. Is heavenly tribulation? Yeah, It's a little powerful, but it's still not as terrifying as a deity's tribulation. Murong Yu's heart thumped as he guided the tribulation lightning's energy to temper his body. What's going on? Murong Yu suddenly exclaimed at his heart. This was because he discovered that the tribulation lightning energy that had entered his body was not drawn by him. Instead, it was drawn into his dantian by an unknown force. Murong Yu was naturally shocked by this. After becoming a god, the dantian was no longer as important. However, there were many treasures in Murong Yu's dantian. The tree of life, the black lotus, and many others were all rooted in his dantian. However, although Murong Yu was shocked, he did not panic. It would be difficult for the tribulation lightning to destroy his dantian. It was even more impossible to destroy the tree of life and the black lotus. It's actually the power of the primal god lattice. Murong Yu revealed an astonished expression. This was because he realized that it was the power of the primal god lattice that was guiding the lightning tribulation. I want to see what you're up to. Murong Yu's illusory light wings flapped fiercely. He passed through the spirit village's protective barrier and rushed into the sky. He was then annihilated by the boundless tribulation lightning. In the spirit village, countless people lifted their heads to look at Murong Yu, who was undergoing his heavenly tribulation. Xiao Xian, you seem to be very worried. Little Tian approached Xiao Xian and chuckled. Xiao Xian rolled her eyes and looked worriedly at Murong Yu, who was undergoing his tribulation. She ignored Lil Tian. Seeing that Xiao Xian ignored him, Little Tian did not feel bored. Instead, he continued, speaking of which, Big Brother Murong Yu has only ascended for a few days, right? He has already condensed a god lattice. This is too shocking. I wonder what kind of god lattice he has condensed. Xiao Xian shook her head. There are countless god lattices of different attributes in this world. How would we know what kind of god lattice Big Brother Murong has condensed? We will know after he finishes his heavenly tribulation. Lightning divinity? However, at this moment, Murong Yu's surprised voice came from the sky. Xiao Xian immediately said excitedly, Big Brother Murong has condensed the lightning divinity. His combat power will be even stronger in the future. Little Tian was confused. Didn't Murong Yu trigger the heavenly tribulation after he had condensed the god lattice? Why did he suddenly roar now? Moreover, why did his voice sound so surprised and bewildered? In reality, Murong Yu was incomparably bewildered right now. This was because another god lattice had appeared in his energy center. It was a god lattice that was flashing with lightning. Lightning divinity. He actually condensed 2 god lattices. Murong Yu was extremely shocked. He knew that in history, no one had ever condensed 2 god lattices. There had always been only 1 god lattice. However, under the guidance of the Chaos God Lattice, the power of the heavenly tribulation actually helped Murong Yu to condense the lightning divinity. 2 god lattices with 2 different attributes. After condensing the lightning divinity, Murong Yu was like a fish in water in the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation couldn't hurt Murong Yu at all. The god lattice spun and lightning crackled. Streaks of energy surged into the god lattice and strengthened the power of the god lattice. Chaos God Lattice, lightning divinity. These are the laws that I have comprehended. Since I can condense 2 god lattices, I wonder if I can condense more god lattices? If I can condense another space god lattice, it would be perfect. Murong Yu thought in his heart. He immediately sat cross-legged in the sky and started comprehending amidst the endless heavenly tribulation. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. During these few days, the heavenly tribulation didn't dissipate. It struck down continuously and drowned Murong Yu. However, this scene shocked the people of the ghost village below, who would undergo the heavenly tribulation for a few days consecutively. He didn't know how many layers of tribulation lightning had struck down. If it wasn't for the fact that Murong Yu was still sitting cross-legged in the sky, the people of the ghost village would have thought that something strange had happened. Even so, everyone from the ghost village came out. This included those who came back from outside. They were all looking at Murong Yu, who was undergoing the heavenly tribulation. Strange, strange. This kid is really strange, who would undergo the heavenly tribulation for a few days consecutively. The experts of the ghost village were all looking at Murong-yu with glowing eyes. Success. Murong-yu, who was amidst the endless heavenly tribulation, suddenly opened his eyes. There was a smile in his eyes. At that moment, he had successfully condensed the godhood in his heart, the spatial godhood. At this point, Murong-yu had 3 godhoods in his body. The godhood in his soul space was the king of godhood, the chaos godhood. The godhood in his god heart was a powerful existence, the spatial godhood. In his dantian was the lightning divinity, which had powerful destructive power. Each of the 3 godheads had extremely powerful attributes. When the power of any godhood erupted, Murong-yu was invincible in the same realm. Yes, 3 godhoods. This is really heaven-defying. I can only hide the chaos godhood and the spatial godhood. I'll leave the lightning divinity in my dantian. Murong-yu chuckled and used the breath-concealing technique created by Zhao Yun. He immediately hid the 2 godhoods. Then his figure flashed, and he walked down from the sky step by step. What Murong-yu didn't realize was that the illusory wings on his back had disappeared. He was only a true god, but he was flying in the air like a true god. Well, I've disturbed everyone because of my tribulation. Murong-yu apologizes for that. I've let everyone down. Before Murong-yu landed, he saw that the entire Spectre village had been mobilized. He immediately apologized to the crowd with an embarrassed smile. It's fine, as long as you're fine. We have nothing to do anyway. A middle-aged man laughed heartily. The reason they were watching was because Murong-yu had been undergoing his tribulation for a few days. It wasn't because Murong-yu had disturbed them. In truth, with their strength, it would be difficult for Murong-yu to disturb them. Lightning divinity, you've entered the mid-true god realm. Your divine body is comparable to a true god. Not bad, not bad. At this moment, Uncle Lin walked over and patted Murong-yu. However, when he patted down, Murong-yu grimaced in pain. This guy was too strong. Even if it was just a casual slap, Murong-yu wouldn't be able to withstand it even if it didn't contain any strength. I was just lucky. Murong-yu grimaced in pain. In his heart, he thought, when I'm stronger than you, I'll definitely give you a few slaps and let you have a taste of all kinds of things. Haha, come to my house for a chat when you're free. Uncle Lin laughed and left in a flash. At this moment, Xiao Xian finally walked over. She looked at Murong-yu with a face full of smiles and said, Big brother Murong, you've entered the mid-true god realm. You're really sick. Murong-yu rolled his eyes and said, Am I as sick as you? I'm not even 20 years old, and I'm already a heavenly god. However, Murong-yu didn't say this out loud. He only thought about it in his heart. All right, I've just condensed my godhead. I need to consolidate it and familiarize myself with my new strength. I'll leave first. After saying that, Murong-yu entered the house again. Then he closed the door with a bang and blocked Xiao Xian in the sect. This guy is too despicable. Xiao Xian gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. When you come out, I'll teach you a lesson. Chapter 827. I still can't contact him. Murong-yu said dejectedly. A few days had passed since he condensed his god lattice. He had already familiarized himself with his current strength and stabilized his cultivation. Lightning divinity's strength had already reached the intermediate true god stage. In other words, Murong-yu didn't only condense his god lattice and god physique, he even reached the intermediate true god stage in less than a month's time. Such a terrifying speed of improvement was absolutely shocking. Originally, Murong-yu should be happy with his strength. However, Murong-yu wasn't happy at all. This was because he still couldn't contact Hichu and the Tian Fa order. However, as Murong-yu's strength grew, his connection with the He-Tu, Luo Shu, and Tian Fa Rit also grew closer. Could it really be because of my strength? But Hichu didn't mention this before. Murong-yu muttered in his heart. After losing Hichu Luo Shu, Murong-yu felt that he wasn't used to doing anything. If I'm really not strong enough, then I should quickly increase my strength. If I can't reach the true god stage, then I'll reach the true God stage. If I can't reach the true God stage, then I'll reach the heavenly God stage. Suddenly, Muronyu jolted. Am I too reliant on Hichu Luoshu? I can't go on like this. Forget it. Since I can't contact Hichu Luoshu and the rest, I don't need them for the time being. After all, I still have to rely on myself on the path of cultivation. No matter how strong a treasure is, it's still an external object. At this moment, Muronyu finally understood. Immediately, his body trembled, and he felt that his cultivation had increased by a little. The primal chaos god lattice and spatial god lattice are already hidden. I'm afraid not many people will be able to discover them. Murongyu's brows flashed coldly. He was a classic example of pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Opening the door, Muronyu walked out. Big brother Murong, you're finally out? Seeing Muronyu walk out, Xiao Xian ran over with a smile. This girl had been waiting for Muronyu for the past few days. She did not know why, but ever since Muronyu came to Spirit Village, Xiao Xian liked to stick by his side. Although Xiao Xian was many times more powerful than Muronyu, Xiao Xian's strength was much stronger than Muronyu. Are you Muronyu, that genius ascender? At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded in Murongyu's ears. Looking in the direction of the voice, Muronyu saw that the speaker was a young man. What a powerful aura. They're all over gods at the very least. Muronyu squinted his eyes slightly. He could sense a sliver of hostility from a young man. This caused Muronyu to feel somewhat displeased. After all, they had never met before. Muronyu had no idea where the young man's hostility toward him came from. Muronyu had never liked people who wanted to find trouble with him for no reason. After glancing at the young man calmly, Muronyu turned to look at Xiao Xian and asked, Xiao Xian, who's this guy? Do I know him well? Xiao Xian could not help but laugh. She said slowly, this guy is my brother. Big brother Murong, don't worry about him. He's always so cold as if everyone owes him money. Don't worry about him. Muronyu looked at the young man again. He realized that the young man was indeed similar to Xiao Xian. Immediately, he said, all right, let's ignore him. I'm at Uncle Lin's place. Do you want to come along? Of course, Xiao Xian pulled Murongyu's hand and walked toward Uncle Lin's place. She completely ignored the young man. Qin Xiaowei's face twitched. He looked at Murongyu and Xiao Xian who were walking away. He snorted and chased after them. Uncle Lin, we're here. Xiao Xian brought Murongyu to Uncle Lin's courtyard. First, she called out to him before entering the courtyard. Come in. Uncle Lin's voice was heard. Murongyu and Xiao Xian did not stand on ceremony and walked in directly. Not bad. You've consolidated your cultivation. It hasn't even been a month since you ascended, yet you've already reached the intermediate true God realm. Your future is limitless. After Murongyu entered, Uncle Lin sized him up and smiled. Compared to the people of Ghost Village, my strength is nothing, Murongyu said calmly. He was not feeling inferior or envious. This was because he knew that if he was given enough time, he would catch up with the people of Ghost Village and eventually surpass them. However, Murongyu knew that the Spectre Village was extremely powerful. It was definitely an extremely mysterious force. This was because the Spectre Village looked too ordinary. In the immortal realm, it was not normal for an ordinary village to appear in the ghostly region. However, Murongyu naturally did not ask about Ghost Village. After all, he was just a passerby of Ghost Village. The people of Ghost Village had already shown him mercy by allowing him to stay here. Moreover, the Spectre Village had saved his life. Uncle Lin, I heard that you ascended from the Yin Huang immortal realm. I've been curious about this for a long time. Murongyu's first question was about the Yin Huang immortal realm. This was because in these few days he had heard a lot of news about other immortal realms from Xiao Xian. In other immortal realms, there were often people who ascended. However, in the Yin Huang immortal realm, in fact, it was extremely difficult to ascend from the Yin Huang immortal realm to the immortal realm. Almost no one had succeeded. The heaven's wrath was too ferocious. A long, long time ago, the Yin Huang immortal realm was the leader of the 3,000 immortal realms. There were many talents and countless experts in the immortal realm came from the Yin Huang immortal realm. However, now the Yin Huang Immortal Realm is at the bottom of the 3,000 Immortal Realms. It is far from the second last Immortal Realm. In fact, it is not just now. A long time ago, there was no one in the Yin Huang Immortal Realm who could ascend. Uncle Lin let out a sigh and said slowly, "That's right. From the top of the 3,000 Immortal Realms to the bottom. The gap is too big. How did the Yin Huang Immortal Realm fall to such a state?" Uncle Lin shook his head and then pointed to the sky. Could it be that someone from above did something to the Yin Huang Immortal Realm? Morong Yu was shocked. "I'm not sure about the details. However, it is definitely someone from above who is deliberately messing with the Yin Huang Immortal Realm. Perhaps they're the enemies of some seniors from the Yin Huang Immortal Realm. However, those people are not people we can come into contact with. Moreover, if you go to the Immortal Realm in the future, it is best that you do not reveal your identity as someone who ascended from the Yin Huang Immortal Realm. Otherwise, it will be disadvantageous for you." Morong Yu frowned slightly. Could it be that someone wants to deal with people from the Yin Huang Immortal Realm? Uncle Lin nodded slightly. Morong Yu fell silent. He could not think of why someone would want to deal with people from the Yin Huang Immortal Realm. In truth, almost no one from the Yin Huang Immortal Realm could ascend. The person who had done this had already gone too far. In the long run, there would probably be no one from the Yin Huang Immortal Realm in the Immortal Realm, and the Yin Huang Immortal Realm would gradually be forgotten. In the end, it would decline and be annihilated. This was a battle between gods. Ordinary people would suffer. Morong Yu's heart skipped a beat. He was now the master of the Yin Huang Immortal Realm and controlled the entire Yin Huang Immortal Realm. Moreover, he had a large number of God's tribulation pills. In the future, people from the Yin Huang Immortal Realm would definitely ascend to the Immortal Realm in large numbers. If the higher-ups were to find out about this, would they take action against Morong Yu? At this moment, Morong Yu felt an unprecedented pressure. At most, I'll flatten those powers, kill those gods, and unify the Immortal Realm. The greater the pressure, the greater the motivation for my cultivation. Morong Yu thought to himself. He was bursting with confidence, following which they chatted about some other things. Of course, most of it was Morong Yu asking questions. And Uncle Lin was indeed one of the strongest people in the Spectre Village. He was very knowledgeable. For a few days, Morong Yu stayed at Uncle Lin's place. In these few days, Morong Yu knew more about the Immortal Realm than he did when he roamed the Immortal Realm alone. Moreover, Morong Yu knew about the Ghostly Realm. The Ghostly Realm was not only a forbidden place on the Yuanwang continent, but also a famous forbidden place in the entire Immortal Realm. In the center of the Ghostly Realm, the demons were extremely powerful. There were even demons who had reached the highest cultivation level in the Immortal Realm. Immediately, Morong Yu was shocked. Shocked at the strength of the Ghostly Realm, but even more shocked at the strength of the Spectre Village. With the Spectre Village standing in such a terrifying ghostly realm, how weak could they be? All right, Uncle Lin, it has been some time since I ascended to the Immortal Realm. How can I get out? Morong Yu suddenly asked. Uncle Lin was stunned. You're leaving? I was just thinking of asking you to join the Spectre Village and become a part of our village. At this moment, Xiao Xian was anxious. Brother Morong, are you leaving? Why don't you stay in the Spectre Village and not leave? Xiao Xian had a pitiful look on her face. Morong Yu almost agreed when he saw how pitiful she looked. The Spectre Village was definitely a super force with endless resources. If he were to become a part of the village, Morong Yu's cultivation path would be smooth sailing. Morong Yu was tempted for a moment. However, he would not join the Spectre Village. That was because all the powers that he had joined had all been destroyed by him in the end. Moreover, he was not alone now. He had Shengzhen. In the future, Shengzhen's men would definitely ascend to the Immortal Realm. Morong Yu would definitely establish Shengzhen in the Immortal Realm. By then, Morong Yu would have to merge the Spectre Village into Shengzhen. Morong Yu cannot do that. Moreover, he had a feeling that he would not be able to merge the Spectre Village into Shengzhen. Xiao Xian, you are my savior, and I am indebted to the Spectre Village. I will remember this in my heart. I will repay you in the future. However, my cultivation path is different from yours. My cultivation path is destined to be filled with bloodshed. If I want to reach the pinnacle, I will have to step on countless experts' corpses and climb up. Most importantly, I have too many enemies. I don't want to create any trouble for you. Muronyu pondered for a moment and said solemnly. Chapter 828. Brother Morong, I alone can take care of your enemies. Isn't it just the Ascension City Lord? I can even kill him. Xiao Xian snorted. Morong, you shook his head. Linghu Changtian is not qualified to be my enemy. My enemies are the Divine Alliance, the Immortal Palace, the Devil's Sect, and other super forces. Xiao Xian fell silent. Although she had never left the Ghost region, she had trained in the outside world. However, she knew that the forces Muronyu was talking about were the super forces of the God Realm. Given her strength, she simply didn't have the ability to exterminate the Divine Union's forces. Perhaps, with the strength of the Spectre Village, they could destroy these forces. However, would the Ghost Village become enemies with so many forces because of Muronyu? Although the people of the Ghost Village were friendly to Muronyu, Muronyu had never thought that they would go against the Divine Alliance because of him. You have just ascended to the God Realm. How did you become enemies with those forces? They do not have any forces in the Yuanwang continent. Xiao Xian pouted and said, I destroyed all their legacies in the immortal world. I also killed the physical body of the young master of the Divine Alliance. Oh yes, Uncle Lin, let me ask you something. A person's physical body has fallen, but his spirit still exists? Muronyu turned to look at Uncle Lin and told him about the Ji dynasty. That is indeed possible. As for the details, I'm not sure. However, the physical body of the young master of the Divine Alliance was resurrected in the Yin Huang immortal world. However, you killed him. The Divine Alliance might not let you off easily. Uncle Lin pondered for a while and said, after a month, Muronyu was finally leaving the Ghost Village. He was not the only one leaving the Ghost Village. In this month, Muronyu once again felt the shock of the demonic beasts attacking the village. This time, the demonic beasts were much stronger than the dragon beasts previously. Muronyu was deeply shocked. The Ghost region was terrifying. Ordinary people could not enter or leave the Ghost region. Even the people of the Ghost Village had to be escorted by the experts of the Ghost Village. Qin Xiaowei and the rest were with Muronyu. Apart from these people, Uncle Lin was also outside. Of course, Uncle Lin did not leave the Ghost region. He was only escorting Muronyu and the rest out of the Ghost region. How big was the Ghost region? Muronyu didn't know. All he knew was that the Ghost domain was huge. They had been walking in the Ghost domain for half a month before they finally stepped out. This made Muronyu feel somewhat puzzled. Back then, he had just entered the Ghost region. But how many days had he been unconscious? In other words, it only took him a day to return to the Spectre Village? How did he do that? Let's go, let's split our things. Muronyu, if there's anything, you can use the Ghost Village's identity medallion to call for help. As long as there's someone nearby, we'll definitely rush over. Qin Xiaowei patted Murongyu's shoulder. In this month, Muronyu and Xiaowei had become familiar with each other. Although this guy looked cold and unfeeling on the surface, he was actually quite a ruthless person. He was not a bad person. In the beginning, he was a little hostile to Muronyu because he thought that Muronyu wanted to hit on his only sister. Muronyu nodded. Okay, if I encounter any trouble, I will ask the people in the village for help. Everyone, let's part ways here. He clasped his fist to the crowd and was about to leave. Muronyu, you really don't want to come with us? Our lives are very interesting. At this time, another person walked over and looked at Muronyu with a smile. Muronyu rolled his eyes and said speechlessly, Look, all of you are at least in the quasi-god realm. I'm only a god. There's a difference of 4 realms. It will be very stressful to be with all of you. However, it won't be too late to join you when my strength surpasses all of you. Everyone in the Spectre Village could go to the outside world as long as they reached the level of Overgod. Moreover, Muronyu vaguely knew that the Ghost Village definitely had a super force in the outside world. After leaving the Ghost Village, he joined that force. Although he did not know what that force was, Muronyu knew that it was not weak. After all, one had to be at least in the overgod realm to join the force. How weak could it be? As long as you are willing, you can become one of us at any time. Xiaowei took a deep look at Muronyu. Then, he led the crowd into the sky and disappeared into the distance. Muronyu quietly put the identity token of the ghost village into his storage ring. Then, he rose into the sky and flew into the distance. In the primordial continent, other than the ghost region where one could cultivate to a very high level, one could not continue to improve their strength in other places. At most, one could only reach the peak of the true God realm. One could not even reach the heavenly God realm. If one wanted to cultivate to a higher level, one had to go to other higher level continents. It would be best to go to the highest level continents in the realm of the gods, the 4 supercontinents. There are 4 continents in the realm of the gods. The Wasteland Continent, the Wasteland Continent, the Tianhuang Continent, and the Primitive Wasteland Continent, which is close to the Primordial Continent. Every continent was surrounded by countless other continents, like the grains of sand in the Ganges. However, every supercontinent is very far away from each other. They are separated into 4 huge continents by the endless sea. Muronyu recalled the layout of the realm of the gods as he flew in the sky. We must leave the primordial continent. However, how do we get to the middle of the other continents? Muronyu was worried because he did not know the way at all. He wanted to ask Xiaowei and the rest about it. However, with their speed, they would have left this place long ago. Forget it. I can only go to the primordial continent to see if anyone has left the primordial continent. Muronyu thought as he flew in the sky and flew forward. In the realm of the gods, not everyone could travel back and forth between continents. People from higher-level continents could travel between lower-level continents at any time. However, it was extremely difficult for people from lower-level continents to enter higher-level continents. Of course, there was another way to pass through the endless deity ocean. That was to use some teleportation formations. However, not everyone was qualified to use the teleportation formations. At the very least, one would need to have a large amount of resources on hand. The primordial continent was the largest city in the primordial continent. It was also the only place that had teleportation formations to other continents. Of course, there was another way to leave the primordial continent and go to higher-level continents. That was to join the forces of other continents. This was because those forces would often recruit disciples from the primordial continent. Whoosh! Murongyu's figure swayed and landed on the ground from the sky. Then, he flew on the ground. He was only in the middle true God realm. If people saw that he could fly in the sky at his current realm, they would probably suspect that he had a unique treasure on him. It would cause unnecessary trouble. In fact, after Murongyu condensed the spatial godhead, he could fly freely in the realm of the gods. Whoosh! At this moment, a golden light suddenly shot over from afar. Even though it was hundreds of millions of miles away from Murongyu, Murongyu could feel the powerful aura contained in the golden light. He could also feel the sharp and ear-piercing sound of it piercing through the sky. The speed of the golden light was extremely fast. The distance of hundreds of millions of miles was crossed in a few moments. Soon, it was not far away from Murongyu. Murongyu squinted his eyes, and a strange expression appeared on his face. Could it be that my luck has improved? After all, this was a divine weapon. It is at least a high-grade divine weapon. At this moment, Murongyu had already seen what the golden light was. In fact, it was not a golden light. It was a long sword that was emitting a dazzling golden light. From the aura that erupted from it, Murongyu guessed that it was at least a high-grade divine weapon. Without thinking, Murongyu stretched out his big hand. It swept across the endless void and directly grabbed the high-grade divine weapon. Bang! When Murongyu's big hand, that was flashing with lightning, grabbed the high-grade divine weapon, it was directly shattered by a powerful force. The high-grade divine weapon only paused in the air for a moment before it continued to fly forward. What a powerful force! Murongyu was shocked. He knew that the force that shattered his big hand was just the impact of the divine weapon. Spatial imprisonment. Spatial barrier. Murong Yu roared in his heart. He unleashed the power of the spatial godhead and directly controlled the void to imprison the divine sword. However, the power of the divine sword was extremely powerful. Murong Yu's attack was instantly shattered, unable to restrain it at all. Surrender. Murong Yu roared in his heart. He stretched out his big hand and grabbed the divine weapon in the air again. At the same time, he continued to use the power of the spatial godhead to imprison the divine weapon. In the end, although the divine weapon was powerful without anyone controlling it, it could not withstand Murong Yu's heavy attacks. After its power was depleted, Murong Yu grabbed it. Whoosh! However, before Murong Yu could observe the divine weapon carefully, an ear-piercing explosion was heard again. Murong Yu turned his head to look, only to see a streak of azure divine light streaking across the void in the distance. Once again, it was heading in their direction. Another divine artifact. Murong Yu was overjoyed. He hurriedly threw the divine weapon in his hand into the storage ring and stretched out his big hand to collect the second divine weapon. It was a small pagoda with 9 floors. Murong Yu only glanced at it briefly before he put it into the storage ring. This was because he saw another red ray of light shattering the void and shooting toward him at high speed. Did I step on dog shit today? Did I hit the jackpot? I just left the ghost realm and countless divine weapons automatically came to me? Murong Yu laughed in his heart and stretched out his big hand to grab the red light in the void. However, in the next moment, Murong Yu was shocked and quickly withdrew his big hand. At the same time, he instantly retreated. Chapter 829. Murong Yu picked up 2 divine weapons that weren't of a low grade. When Murong Yu thought that the third ray of light was also a divine weapon, he was shocked to find that the red light wasn't the so-called divine weapon. Although there was a difference of 1 word, it was still a divine person. That's right, the ray of light that shot over was a person. However, this person looked very wasteful. His whole body was covered in blood, and even his original appearance couldn't be seen clearly. However, Murong Yu could still see that this person was an old man. Although he seemed to be seriously injured, the aura on his body was sharp and very powerful. Could it be that the 2 divine weapons belonged to this old man? Well, after I got them, they became mine. When Murong Yu saw the injured old man, he immediately retreated without hesitation. This was because he thought that the 2 divine weapons belonged to the old man. Moreover, this old man's strength was very strong, but he was injured. There must be someone stronger than him chasing after him. With Murong Yu's strength, if he didn't leave, once the other person caught up and a battle broke out, Murong Yu would be affected and turned into dust. He couldn't be more dead. However, when Murong Yu retreated, his expression changed instantly. That was because he saw the old man rapidly approaching him in the sky. At this moment, he had actually extended a blood-soaked hand and grabbed at Murong Yu with lightning speed. Murong Yu was so scared that he let out a strange cry. He felt the terrifying power coming from the old man's big hand. The power of the 3 godheads in his body burst out in an instant. His body suddenly accelerated and retreated backward. However, what made Murong Yu deeply shocked was that even if his speed increased by several times, it was useless. Swish! The old man's slightly withered and bloody hand broke through the obstruction of hundreds of millions of space-time and appeared in front of Murong Yu. Then, under Murong Yu's horrified gaze, the old man grabbed Murong Yu. My life is over. This thought instantly arose in Murong Yu's mind. Just as he was about to use the immortal world's origin energy to teleport himself back to the immortal world, he felt the big hand grabbing him suddenly loosen. With a bang, Murong Yu's entire body fell to the ground. Along with him was the old man who was covered in blood. Whoosh! After falling to the ground, the old man's big hand that grabbed Murong Yu had already loosened. Without a second thought, Murong Yu immediately retreated. However, Murong Yu's figure only swayed. Before he could retreat, the old man grabbed Murong Yu again. At the same time, the old man suddenly said, "Young man, don't panic. I have no ill intentions towards you. It's fate that we met here. I won't kill you. It would be strange if you don't have ill intentions. Look at you. You can't wait to kill me." Murong Yu sneered in his heart. However, at this time, he did not feel any killing intent from the old man. Therefore, he did not continue to run. Instead, he calmed down and looked at the old man. He wanted to know what the old man wanted to do. "I'm the sect master of the Tian Dao sect, Tian Jizi. When I was in seclusion, I was ambushed by Tian Xuanzi and was severely injured. Tian Xuanzi wants to seize the position of sect master of the Tian Dao sect. This person has the face of a human and the heart of a beast. I risked my life to escape. I will never let him become the sect master of the Tian Dao sect." Murong Yu curled his lips and thought to himself, "You've already been heavily injured. Who knows, maybe that Tian Xuanzi or whatever will catch up to you and finish you off. At that time, he will naturally become the sect master of the Tian Dao sect. Even if I die, even if he becomes the sect master, he will not be the real sect master, because he does not have the sect master's ring. It's fate that we met. Now, I will give you the sect master's ring of the Tian Dao sect. You will be the sect master of the Tian Dao sect. When you have the strength, kill Tian Xuanzi for me and bring glory to the Tian Dao sect." As he spoke, the old man, who was also the divine predictor, took out a black and unremarkable ring and handed it to Murong Yu. Murong Yu did not take it. Who knew if this guy was telling the truth or not? Who would hand over the position of sect leader to someone they had only met once? Moreover, if Murong Yu took the sect master's ring, it would definitely cause unnecessary trouble in the future. Most importantly, what benefits would Murong Yu get? The sect master's ring is also a storage ring. It contains my life's collection. Moreover, the Tian Dao sect is not some mediocre sect. Even in the God realm, it is one of the top sections. If you become the sect master of the Tian Dao sect, the countless resources in the Tian Dao sect will be at your disposal. As if seeing Murong Yu's hesitation, the old man quickly said. Murong Yu was tempted. To be honest, he was not interested in the resources in the Tian Dao sect, but the resources in the storage ring. Although Tian Jizi did not say what realm Tian Xuanzi's strength had reached, it was obvious that he was very strong. Murong Yu was not stupid enough to find trouble with Tian Xuanzi. Wouldn't that be sending himself to be killed? If he wanted to become the sect master of the Tian Dao sect, he would have to wait until he had the strength. Okay, I agree. As long as I have the ability, I will definitely kill Tian Xuanzi and avenge you. Murong Yu took the ring and said in a deep voice. The old man's face showed a trace of a smile, but under the cover of the blood on his face, it looked a little sinister. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but Murong Yu suddenly found that he was no longer breathing. The dignified sect master of the Tian Dao sect, Tian Jizi, actually died in front of Murong Yu. He died just like that. Murong Yu was startled at first. Then he roared towards the sky. Of course, he was not heartbroken because of Tian Jizi's death, but, "Old man, you are too unkind. Aside from this tattered ring, you're not going to give me anything else. Since you're going to die anyway, you might as well give me a blessing before you die and raise my strength by a few large realms." Murong Yu roared towards the sky, feeling extremely displeased. I don't know what realm this old man is. Is he a heavenly monarch or a heavenly king? If I can get his divine deity. Murong Yu looked at Tian Jizi's heart. Forget it, this old man is not my enemy, and he even gave my Tian Dao sect master ring. Although I don't know if it is a blessing or a curse, it is still not good to dig out his divine deity. Let's just bury him. Immediately, Murong Yu buried Tian Jizi on a nearby mountain. Then he unfolded his body and flew in another direction. He didn't want to meet Tian Xuanzi, who was chasing after him. If that happened, Murong Yu would definitely die. Old man, you lied to me. Murong Yu, who was flying, suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. This damned old man is too hateful. I shouldn't have been buried by him just now. I should have dug out his divine deity. Murong Yu cursed. Just now, he wanted to see what was inside the Tian Dao sect master ring. That was Tianjizi's lifelong collection. However, what made Muronyu angry was that he couldn't enter the sect master ring at all. Muronyu felt that he had been cheated. That was why he cursed at the sky just now. What bullshit sect master ring? I still need to cultivate bullshit heavenly Tao scripture to open it. Old man, you are really scary. Before you died, you should have passed the heavenly Tao scripture to me. Muronyu cursed in his heart. Although he couldn't enter the storage ring, he also knew that in order to enter the storage ring, he had to cultivate the heavenly Tao scripture. And the heavenly Tao scripture is the heavenly Tao sect's secret art. Only the sect master can cultivate the complete heavenly Tao scripture. In fact, Muronyu wrongly blamed Tianjizi. Tianjizi originally wanted to pass the heavenly Tao scripture to Muronyu. However, before he could say anything, he suddenly hung up. Time and fate. Do I really have to go to the heavenly Tao sect? As long as I cultivate the heavenly Tao scripture, I can get a lot of resources in the storage ring. Tianjizi's lifetime collection. The number of treasures inside must be amazing. Well, since I have no place to go, why don't I sneak into this heavenly Tao sect and then become the sect master? Muronyu thought in his heart. However, at this time, he found another problem. He didn't know where the heavenly Tao sect was. Which continent? The old man appeared in the primordial desolate continent, so the heavenly Tao sect should also be near the primordial desolate continent. Well, let's go to the primeval wasteland city first to inquire about it. Muronyu threw the storage ring of the heavenly Tao sect's sect master into the storage ring and was about to fly to the primeval wasteland city. However, at this time, a figure flew over from afar. Muronyu was shocked, thinking that Tian Xuanzi had caught up with him. However, he soon calmed down, because he found that the person who came was just a person in the true God realm. Boy, did you notice a few rays of light passing by in the sky before? The true God came in front of Muronyu and floated above Murongyu's head, looking down at Muronyu. Sure enough, the two divine artifacts attracted the attention of others. This person was the first to come here, but he is definitely not the only one. These troubles should be avoided as much as possible. Thinking in his heart, Muronyu immediately shook his head and said, I haven't seen them. You haven't seen them? A strange look flashed across the true God's face, and then he sneered. The two rays of light are so powerful that they can be seen clearly within a radius of tens of billions of miles. You're not blind, so how can you not see them? Where did you get them? Kid, give me your storage ring. I'll check it once. As he spoke, the true God reached out his hand to grab the storage ring on Murongyu's finger. A cold light flashed across Murongyu's eyebrows, and a murderous intent burst out. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. At this moment, the power of the two godheads in Murongyu's body burst out fiercely. He soared into the sky and punched the true God hard. Chapter 830. You overestimate yourself. The true God looked at Murongyu with disdain. When he saw Murongyu's fist flying towards him, he didn't retaliate. He had reason to look down on Murongyu. After all, there was a huge gap between them. But soon, the true God regretted it. Bang! Murongyu was extremely fast, and his fist landed on the true God's body. A powerful force surged over like an avalanche. Suddenly, the true God was sent flying. What? This is impossible. The true God could not help but exclaim. Although he was careless, how could Muronyu send him flying with one punch? One should know that he was an expert in the early stage of the true God realm. Although he hadn't been injured, Muronyu had still hurt his pride. With a sway of his body, the true God stepped into the air and charged toward Muronyu. Brat, you could die now. The true God laughed sinisterly as he charged at Muronyu. Muronyu sneered. The power of the space godhead and the lightning divinity godhead were increased by him. In an instant, Murongyu's body flashed with a layer of lightning shield. Bolts of lightning were even spitting out from his hand. The power of the lightning divinity turned the power of Murongyu's attack into the power of lightning. Just a true God. It's no big deal. Muronyu sneered and attacked the true God again. Crackle! The moment both sides exchanged blows, the true god's body was drowned by the violent lightning. A terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth instantly entered his body and began to crazily grind his meridians, flesh, and bones. At that moment, the true god's body trembled uncontrollably as the smell of being burnt spread from his body. At that moment, the true god was paralyzed by the lightning. Lightning attacks were quite disgusting. Not only was it one of the most destructive powers, it also had a paralyzing effect. If an expert was paralyzed for a moment in battle, then his opponent would be able to kill him 1,000,000,000 times over. Just like the true god. By the time he was paralyzed, Muronyu had already charged forward and unleashed the power of his two godhoods. In the blink of an eye, he unleashed over 1,000,000 punches, each of which landed squarely on his opponent. Bang! After an earth-shattering explosion, the true god let out a blood-curdling scream. His entire body was shattered by Murongyu's powerful strength and turned into a bloody mist. Even his soul had been blasted into smithereens. He was deader than dead. Muronyu took a deep breath. He grabbed the true godhead and put it into his storage ring. Killing people above my level is awesome. With the power of two godhoods, I can easily kill 3 early true gods. If the power of 3 godheads erupted, he should be able to kill a mid-stage true god. However, it's still a little troublesome for a late-stage true god. I shouldn't be a match for a late-stage true god. Muronyu pondered in his heart. His figure flickered, landed on the ground, and flew into the distance again. However, the power of lightning is really useful. In the future, I'll just use Brother Lightning Lay's power under normal circumstances. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. While Muronyu was flying into the distance, powerful auras constantly flew over from all directions. Obviously, Tianjizi's 2 divine weapons had attracted the attention of the people nearby. However, these people should have been extremely far away from here before and only rushed over now. However, what surprised Muronyu was that he didn't notice the Ascension City's city lord, Linghu Changtian. Logically speaking, the Ascension City wasn't far from here. Linghu Changtian should be the fastest to reach here. However, Muronyu didn't notice him at all. It's better that he didn't come. Otherwise, I'm still not a match for him. At this moment, Muronyu didn't want to leave, because he couldn't leave. At this moment, there were already dozens of true God Realm experts nearby. These were all the pinnacle experts of the primordial wilderness continent. After these people came nearby, how could they let go of Muronyu? Some of them asked Muronyu with good intentions. Some of them directly asked Muronyu with the identity of a true God Realm expert. There were too many experts here, so you could only endure it. However, his answer this time wasn't like before, saying that he didn't see anything. Saying that he didn't see anything was definitely fake. In the end, he just pointed in the direction of the ghost domain and said that the 2 divine weapons flew in. In fact, if Muronyu didn't intercept the 2 divine weapons, the 2 divine weapons would have entered the ghost domain. Kid, you think I'll believe you when you say that the 2 divine weapons entered the ghost domain? I suspect that you're the one who got the 2 divine weapons. Give me your storage ring. A true god stood in front of Muronyu and sneered at Muronyu. The aura of a true God Realm expert was completely exposed. Like a storm, he suppressed Muronyu, wanting to kill Muronyu. Murongyu's face was ashen. A cold light flickered between his brows. His heart was filled with killing intent. Another person who wanted to check his storage ring. No matter what, Muronyu didn't allow others to check his storage ring, because the 2 divine weapons were indeed in Murongyu's storage ring. Other than that, there was a large amount of resources. Those were all given to him by the Ghost Village. Muronyu once again felt the inconvenience of not having the Hichu Luo Shu. If he had the He-2 and the Book of the Luo, he could have stored everything in the He-2 and the Book of the Luo. Even if these people wanted to check his storage ring, it would be impossible, because he didn't have it. And kid, are you not willing? The more you act like this, the more I suspect that you've got the divine weapons. Hurry up and hand over your storage ring. Ling Guang looked at Muronyu indifferently. His tone was filled with sharp, killing intent. Kid, senior brother asked you to hand over your storage ring. Are you deaf or mute? Damn it. Don't tell me you don't dare to hand over your storage ring? You dare to go against the Ling Tian mansion in the Yuan Huang continent? A late-stage true god looked at Murong Yu with killing intent. He turned to look at Ling Guang and said with a flattering smile, Senior brother, don't worry. I'll take down this kid now. Ling Guang nodded indifferently. He felt that Murong Yu wasn't worth his time. This isn't your Ling Tian mansion. Ling Guang, you've gone too far. Just as Murong Yu was about to explode his 3 godheads and kill all these idiots from the Ling Tian mansion, a slightly cold voice sounded. Murong Yu turned around and saw a group of people walking over slowly. The leader was a beautiful woman who was about 20 years old. She was the one who had spoken those words earlier. Ling Guang's expression changed slightly when he saw the person. He sneered and said, This is my business. It has nothing to do with you. I advise you to mind your own business. How is it none of my business? He's my guest. Yang Yin walked over. A faint fragrance entered Murong Yu's nose, causing ripples in his heart. He's from the Skywave Mansion. He's a servant of the Ling Tian Mansion. He stole something from the Ling Tian Mansion and escaped. Senior Marshal Brother Ling led us all the way here, and we were just about to check his storage ring. If he's really from the Skywave Mansion, he must have been ordered by you to steal from the Ling Tian Mansion. The disciple who flattered Ling Guang took a step forward and said coldly, Ha ha! Ling Guang laughed and looked at the disciple with admiration. He was quite impressed. Yang Yun, on the other hand, frowned slightly. Both the Ling Tian Mansion and the Skywave Mansion were powerful forces in the Origin City. They had always been enemies and couldn't wait to kill each other. The disciples of the 2 forces were always at loggerheads when they met. It was common for them to fight each other. However, unlike the disciples of the Ling Tian Mansion who were arrogant and domineering, the people of the Skywave Mansion were decent. At this moment, Yang Yun was frowning as he looked at Murong Yu. Of course, she knew that Murong Yu was not from the Ling Tian Mansion. However, since he said so, even if Murong Yu was not from the Ling Tian Mansion, they couldn't continue to interfere. However, for some reason, Murong Yu gave Yang Yun a very special feeling. She felt that this person was very mysterious and worth befriending. Although Murong Yu's situation was worse than hers, but she just had that feeling. No matter what, I must save this person. The enemy of the Ling Tian Mansion is the friend of the Skywave Mansion. Chapter 831. Thief. He's a noble guest of Skywave Prefecture. Don't frame him, or else. Yang Yin looked at Ling Guang coldly. She was determined to save Murong Yu. Ling Guang's killing intent soared. He wanted to kill Yang Yun immediately. Now he had no interest in Murong Yu. It was all because of Murong Yu. Looking around, Ling Guang's killing intent suddenly disappeared. Then he said coldly, half a month later, the Natural Law School will recruit disciples on the Providence continent. You'd better not take part in the trial, or you'll die. He did not hide his killing intent at all. In fact, Skywave Prefecture and Lingtian Prefecture would never let go of each other's disciples as long as they had the chance. Half a month later, during the Heavenly Law School's disciple trial, the 2 sides would definitely engage in the most violent battle. It's not certain who will win. Yang Yin looked at Ling Guang indifferently and said. She did not take Ling Guang seriously at all. She was only afraid of another person from Lingtian Prefecture. Let's go. You'd better beg not to find those divine weapons for us, or it'll be the end of your Skywave Prefecture, Ling Guang said indifferently, and then left with the people from Lingtian Prefecture. Although the Natural Law School also recruited disciples on the Providence continent, the number of disciples they could recruit was limited. They only recruited the best and most talented disciples. But how would they know if they were the best? The most talented ones? Then they could only prove their value through the bloody trial. How many people were there on the Providence continent? There were as many people as the sand in the Ganges River who would take part in the trial. Among so many people, the ones who survived to the end would definitely be the strongest. The Natural Law School is recruiting disciples here. It seems that Tianjizi's death was not a coincidence, Morongyu thought. He thought this was the best way to sneak into the natural law school. He must take part in the trial and pass it. While he was thinking, Morongyu saw Yang Yin looking at him. Therefore, Morongyu said, "I'm Morongyu. Thank you for saving me, Miss Yang." "Mr. Morong, are you interested in joining the Skywave Prefecture?" Yang Yin looked at Morongyu with a smile. Join Skywave Prefecture? Morongyu was surprised. To be honest, he was not interested in Skywave Prefecture at all. The strongest warrior in Skywave Prefecture could only be the overlord of the Yuan Wasteland continent. The strongest warrior in Skywave Prefecture was just a true god. So what if there were heavenly deities? In the Spectre Village, anyone would have the strength of a heavenly god or above. Morongyu shook his head. Seeing this, Yang Yin was disappointed. However, Morongyu continued, "However, this time, I came out to participate in the Heavenly Dao Sex trial. If Miss Yang doesn't mind, we could go together." It seems that the people from Ling Tian Mansion aren't friendly to you people from Skywave Prefecture. Yang Yin was overjoyed when he heard that. However, at this time, a sarcastic voice came. "Who do you think you are? You're just a middle-stage true god. Even if you participate in the trial, you'll only be cannon fodder. Senior Sister Yang asked you to join Skywave Prefecture because she thinks highly of you. Don't be so shameless." Morongyu's face was gloomy. He turned around and saw a young man looking at him with contempt. However, there was nothing he could do. Although the young man was just an early-stage true god, Yang Yin felt that he was strong enough to look down on Morongyu. "Did you eat shit today? Didn't you brush your teeth? Why is your mouth so smelly?" Morongyu looked at the young man with a smile and said directly, "Boy, you're courting death." Yang Yin was furious. His violent aura burst out instantly. He took a step forward and approached Morongyu with a murderous look. He was about to kill Morongyu. "Enough," Yang Yin shouted. He looked at Yang Yin coldly and said, "Yang Yin, Mr. Morong is now a guest of Skywave Prefecture. Don't be impolite." "Yes." Yang Yin withdrew his aura and took a few steps back. It seemed that he was afraid of Yang Yin. However, even so, he still looked at Morongyu with resentment. Morongyu sneered. There were many people like him. If he dared to attack him, he would kill him directly. "Miss Yang, are you here to look for the divine artifact? I've seen 3 divine lights flashing across the sky, but they all went toward the ghost realm. Maybe they have entered the ghost realm." Morongyu explained kindly. "Entered the ghost realm? It's good that they have entered the ghost realm. Otherwise, it will cause a bloodbath. Moreover, if Lingtian Mansion gets these divine artifacts, Skyway Prefecture will be in danger," Yang Yin thought. The strength of Lingtian Mansion and Skyway Prefecture was almost the same, which was why they had been competing with each other for countless years. If they got these divine artifacts, their strength would soar, and then it would be the end of each other. "But we still have to look for them." Yang Yin thought for a while and turned to Morongyu and said, "Mr. Morong, where are you going? If you have time, why don't you go with us? After this, we can participate in the disciple selection of Heaven's Sect together. Going with Skywave Prefecture can avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble." "That's good." Morongyu nodded and began to look for divine artifacts nearby with Yang Yin and the others. However, they didn't know that the divine artifacts they were looking for were right beside them. Moreover, Morongyu had a master's ring, which was billions of times more precious than these divine artifacts. However, what annoyed Morongyu the most was that there would occasionally be gazes filled with incomparable hatred sweeping over him from time to time. Of course, it was Yang Yin who was looking at Morongyu with resentment. If it weren't for the fact that the timing wasn't right, Morongyu would have exploded with his power and killed Yang Yin. Although Yang Yin was just a bum who couldn't cause any trouble, Morongyu still felt that Yang Yin was a threat. However, Morongyu felt a little uncomfortable because of Yang Yin's uneasiness. For several days in a row, Morongyu had been searching under the ground. He saw more and more people coming to this area. When there were more people, there would naturally be more trouble. Some small teams or individuals were robbed from time to time. Maybe it was not because they were suspected of having divine artifacts, but simply because they wanted to rob resources. If Morongyu hadn't joined Skyway Prefecture's Yangyun's group, he would have encountered the same thing. Of course, if he hadn't joined Yangyun's team, Morongyu would have left here and gone to Origin City. On the way, Yangyun suddenly asked, "Mr. Morong, how confident are you in the Heavenly Law School's disciple trial?" After interacting with him for a few days, Yangyun was even more convinced of Murongyu's mysteriousness. Furthermore, she was certain that Murongyu wasn't as weak as he appeared to be. This was her perceptive ability, and her perceptive ability had almost never been wrong. Murongyu smiled faintly and said, "If only true gods and deities participate in the trial, I'm 100% sure that I can become a disciple of the Heavenly Law School." The Heavenly Law School recruited disciples on the Origin continent, which was open to deities and true gods. Of course, if they didn't think they were courting death, they could also participate in the trial. This was what Murongyu learned from Yangyun. Moreover, Murongyu finally knew what kind of power the Heavenly Law School was. The Dream Wilderness Continent was a third-class continent in the Divine Realm. It was hundreds of millions of times bigger than the Origin Continent, and the Dream Wilderness Continent was full of experts. The Heavenly Law School was one of the top sects in the Dream Wilderness Continent. The strength of the sect was very terrifying. The third-class continent was one of the most powerful continents in addition to the 4 supercontinents. In the Dream Wilderness Continent, one could cultivate to the Heavenly Emperor realm. Of course, not everyone could cultivate to the realm of Heavenly Emperor. If so, the entire Divine Realm would be filled with Heavenly Emperors. Although the Heavenly Emperor realm was not the highest realm in the Divine Realm, but the Heavenly Emperor realm was the top expert in the Divine Realm. Being able to cultivate to the Heavenly Emperor realm was enough for Murongyu in a short time. The key was that he had to sneak into the Heavenly Law School and get the Heavenly Law Scripture. Only then could he open the head ring of the Heavenly Law School. 10 days have passed. In 5 days, the trial of the Heavenly Law School will begin, and it will take some time for us to rush back to the Origin City. Let's go back to the Origin City now, so as not to miss the trial of the Heavenly Law School. Immediately, Murongyu and the others rushed in the direction of the Ascension City. Anyway, Murongyu did not care. After all, the divine artifact that the whole world was looking for was in his storage ring. "Hey, isn't this Miss Yangyun of the Skyway Prefecture? Are you in a hurry to participate in the trial of the Heavenly Law School? I advise you not to participate in it. Otherwise, it would be a pity if a beauty like you were to die." A faint voice sounded a little frivolous and flirtatious. But when Murongyu looked at the person who spoke, he did not feel that at all. It was a young man with a cold aura. When he spoke, the expression on his face was very stiff and full of killing intent. However, when Murongyu saw this person, he clearly saw a hint of fear in Yangyun's eyes. "Humph!" Yangyun just snorted coldly and ignored him. She continued to walk forward. The young man did not make things difficult for Yangyun and the others. He just sped up and passed by Yangyun and the others, disappearing in front of them. However, Murongyu could feel that when this person passed by him, his gaze seemed to sweep over his body, either intentionally or unintentionally. Murongyu sneered in his heart. He did not care at all. This person is one of the most outstanding young disciples of the Lingtian Prefecture, just like Lingguan. His name is Linghan. Not only is he strong, but he is also extremely cruel and cold-blooded. If you see him in the trial, you'd better avoid him. Yangyun explained to Murongyu. Chapter 832. Murongyu shrugged nonchalantly. So what if Linghan was powerful? In the end, they were only at the true god realm. Perhaps to the true gods, they were experts. However, when compared to the entire god realm, he was nothing. In Murongyu's heart, Linghan's level of strength was nothing in his eyes. It wasn't that Murongyu was too arrogant, but he had just ascended to the immortal realm and entered the ghost village, a place full of powerful, true gods. Any 1 or 2 people from the ghost village could defeat the whole primordial continent. Although Murongyu hadn't been in the ghost village for long, he had seen a lot of things. However, Murong-Yu's nonchalant attitude made Yang Yun feel that Murong-Yu was even more mysterious. However, except for Yang Yun, the others all looked at Murong-Yu with disdain. This was especially true for Yang Yin, who couldn't wait to kill Murong-Yu. The more he looked at Murong-Yu, the more he disliked him. The people of Skywave Prefecture couldn't understand why Yang Yun, who was usually shrewd, was so polite to Murong-Yu. Wasn't he just a true god? There were many people like him in Skywave Prefecture. After walking for a while, Murong-Yu suddenly asked Yang Yun, "Do you want to join the Tiandao sect?" Yang Yun nodded without any hesitation. Joining the Tiandao sect was the only chance for her to become stronger and leave the primordial continent. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to leave the primordial continent. With your talent, I believe you can break through to the late stage of true god soon. Then, you'll be a top true god in the primordial continent, an overlord. You can do whatever you want in the primordial continent. Why do you want to leave? Murong-Yu asked indifferently. I want to become stronger. Yang Yun had a stubborn look on his face. Of course, I can cultivate to the peak of true god and become the overlord of the primordial continent. However, my goal is not only the true god realm. I want to reach a higher level. So what if he was the overlord of the primordial wilderness continent? It was only a remote place, so how could it compare to the entire god realm? Furthermore, the pinnacle of power is my goal, Yang Yun said solemnly. She was indifferent to things like power. The only thing she valued was power, great power. Murong-Yu was silent, but a ripple appeared in his heart. Yang Yun's pursuit was the same as his. However, Yang Yun was strong purely for the sake of being strong. However, Murong-Yu didn't stop there. He had many other reasons that forced him to be strong. Family, friends, Shenzhen, and so on. In order to protect them, Murong-Yu had to be strong. He had to be strong all the time and become the strongest one. You helped me this time. Even if you didn't do anything, Ling Guang wouldn't have been able to do anything to me. But you still made a move. No matter what your motive is, you did help me. Therefore, I will help you into the natural law school this time. Really? Yang Yin was overjoyed. She didn't know why, but she believed that Murong-Yu would do what he said. Murong-Yu nodded. However, the other people of Skywave Prefecture were full of disdain. You're just a middle-stage true god. I'm afraid you'll be killed after entering the training space. You want to help Senior Sister Yang? I think you're the one with bad intentions. You want Senior Sister Yang's protection, right? Yang Yin looked at Murong-Yu and sneered. He was more and more unhappy with him. Ignorant. Murong-Yu sneered. He was too lazy to argue with these villains. Soon, they returned to the primeval city. This was the second city that Murong-Yu had seen in the God Realm. It was the largest city in the Origin City, thousands of times larger than the Ascension City. However, even so, the entire Ascension City was packed with people. According to Yang Yun, this was because the Natural Law School was recruiting disciples. Many people came from all over the primeval wasteland city. Otherwise, even though the primeval wasteland city was usually lively, it would not be as crowded as it was today. The training space will begin in 3 days. I'll stay at your place first. Murong-Yu refused Yang Yun's kindness to introduce him to Skywave Prefecture. Yang Yun had no choice but to arrange for Murong-Yu to stay in her mansion. As an elite disciple of Skywave Prefecture, she had a high status in the prefecture. During these 3 days, Murong-Yu didn't go anywhere. He just stayed in Yang Yun's mansion to consolidate his cultivation. On this day, Yang Yun found Murong-Yu and took him to the square in the center of the Origin City. The training space of the Natural Law School was about to begin. When Murong-Yu arrived at the square, he saw that it was already crowded. They couldn't squeeze in at all. However, they were not in a hurry because there were more people behind them. Anyone who wanted to participate in the training space had a chance to do so. Isn't this Yang Yun? Are you really going to participate in the training space? But there are too many people participating in the training space. You have to be careful. Otherwise, you will be killed as soon as you enter the training space. It doesn't matter if you die, but if an elite disciple of Skywave Prefecture is killed as soon as he enters the training space, will Skywave Prefecture be able to bear the shame? Not long after Murong-Yu and the others arrived, an annoying voice came. Murong, you didn't need to look to know that it was Ling Guang, the elite disciple of Lingtian Prefecture. Hey, whose dog is this? It's not tied up before going out and barking here. It's ruining my mood. Murong, you glanced at Ling Guang and said indifferently. Ling Guang was enraged. A violent energy erupted from him as he took a step forward, wanting to kill Murong Yu. Ling Guang, don't make trouble. If you want to kill someone, you can kill them in the training space later. A cold voice came. It turned out that Ling Han from Lingtian Prefecture had arrived. Ling Guang seemed to be afraid of Ling Han, so he stepped back silently. However, he didn't forget to glare at Murong Yu with hatred. It's best if your strength is as sharp as your mouth. Don't think that you could do whatever you want, because you have the support of Skywave Prefecture. Ling Han glanced at Murong Yu and said coldly, You're wrong. I don't do whatever I want because of Skywave Prefecture. I have nothing to do with Skywave Prefecture. They're just some dogs. I'm a god. How can I let a dog bark in front of me? Murong Yu said that Ling Han and Ling Guang were dogs. Ling Han was infuriated, and a murderous intent flashed across his face. However, he didn't say anything. He just stood aside without looking at Murong Yu. This guy is not simple. He can hold back his killing intent. Murong Yu was slightly shocked. However, it was only a slight shock. He still didn't place Ling Han in his eyes. This guy is too arrogant. We must stay away from him when we enter the training space. Damn it, does he really think he's a god? He has offended so many gods. Doesn't he know that Ling Han is a cold-blooded god of killing? Some of the Skywave Prefecture's disciples involuntarily took a few steps back, creating some distance between them and Murong Yu. In the end, only Yang Yun was left standing side by his side with Murong Yu. Murong Yu shrugged. He looked at Yang Yun and asked, Aren't you afraid that I'll get you into trouble? If you step back now, Ling Han and the others won't hold a grudge against you. They and Skywave Prefecture are mortal enemies. It's either you die or I die. There's no need to be afraid of them. Besides, I know my choice. Yang Yun looked at Murong Yu meaningfully. Soon you'll know that you've made the right choice. Murong Yu smiled faintly. That's Ling Ling, the #1 expert of the young generation of Lingtian Mansion. Ling Ling? That's a weird name. Murong Yu looked in the direction Yang Yun was pointing at. He saw a beautiful woman standing not far away from him. However, Murong Yu was baffled by the fact that a beautiful woman like Ling Ling should be surrounded by a lot of men. Yet, the area around Ling Ling was empty. No one dared to approach her. You're surprised, aren't you? This Ling Ling only wanted to cultivate. Any man who dared to have ideas about her was either killed or crippled by her. It's said that she has reached the late stage of true God realm. She's a violent woman. Murong Yu nodded and gave Ling Ling a definition. That's Yang Hao, the #1 expert of the young generation of Skywave Prefecture. It's said that he has also reached the late stage of true God realm. Yang Yun pointed at a man in his 20s who was surrounded by countless infatuated women and introduced him. That's Yang Wei. He's stronger than me. That's Ling Ning, one of the 4 prodigies of Skywave Prefecture. That's the Ascension City's outstanding disciple, Feng Li. More and more people began to gather around Murong Yu. Yang Yun continued to introduce the outstanding disciples of the younger generation of the primordial wilderness continent to Murong Yu. As for everyone else, Murong Yu merely cast an indifferent glance at them. He didn't take them to heart. Little Yun, why are you with this brat? Suddenly, a voice filled with anger sounded out. A figure landed in front of Murong Yu and Yang Yun. It was filled with rage and killing intent as it stared at Murong Yu. Murong Yu turned to look at the ashen-faced Yang Yun and asked, Who's this guy? He's Yang Yishan, a disciple of Skywave Prefecture. Yang Yishan, I have nothing to do with you. Just call me Yang Yun. Yang Yun looked at Yang Yishan with disgust and said coldly, I'll ask you again. Who's this guy? Yang Yishan pointed at Murong Yu angrily, as if he was about to attack. Murong Yu finally understood what was going on. Yang Yishan seemed to like Yang Yun, but Yang Yun didn't like him. He saw him with Yang Yun, so he vented his anger on Murong Yu. He was a typical idiot. He's my lover. Yang Yin suddenly hugged Murong Yu's arm. Seeing this scene, Murong Yu nearly fainted. On the other hand, Yang Yishan's lungs were about to explode. You're truly infuriating. You can only be mine. Any man who dares to approach you will die. Go to hell. Yang Yishan roared as he extended his claw toward Murong Yu, grabbing at the air. Chapter 833. Whoosh. Just as Yang Yishan was enraged and was about to claw Murong Yu to kill Murong Yu, suddenly, an extremely powerful pressure descended from the sky, suppressing the entire square and even the vicinity of the square. Puff! Yang Yishan's attack burst like a bubble. It could not withstand a single blow at all. Yang Yishan was shocked. He was a true God Realm expert. Very few people on the primordial continent could break his attack with just pressure. Therefore, he stopped and did not continue to attack. Because he knew that if the other party could break his attack with pressure, it was absolutely possible for the other party to kill him with pressure. Could it be that the experts of the natural law sect have made a move? Yang Yishan, who was still in shock, looked at his surroundings and immediately realized that the originally noisy square had already quietened down. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Yang Yishan was relieved because he knew that the pressure was not just directed at him. However, he did not dare to make a move. He just looked at Murong Yu with hatred and said in a low voice, "When you enter the trial space, it will be your end." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the center of the square, 3 figures flew over from afar and floated in the void. Murong Yu's eyes narrowed. They are at least over God Realm experts. Obviously, the 3 of them were the experts of the natural law sect. They were here to host the trial and were responsible for recruiting disciples. The natural law sect only recruits 10,000 disciples in the primordial continent. Those who can last until the end of the trial are qualified to become a disciple of the natural law sect. There are no rules in the trial. We only need to last until the end of the trial. If you can't hold on any longer, you can give up in your heart. We will naturally send you out of the trial space. Otherwise, you will die. Among the 3 experts of a natural law sect, one of them glanced at the crowd and said indifferently, Murong Yu suddenly felt a little strange. Where was the so-called trial space? Soon, one of the experts of the natural law sect answered Murong Yu's doubts. The expert tossed a book-like magic treasure into the sky. The book-like magic treasure emitted a mass of light and disappeared into the horizon. Then, a huge portal appeared in the void. Divine light poured down and enveloped the entire square. Anyone below the heavenly God level can enter the trial space. As for those at the heavenly God stage or above, there was no need for them to participate in the trial. You can't enter the trial space either. I'm sure you're all very clear about this. Now, I announce that the trial has officially begun. Before the voice of the master of the natural law school could fade away, all the people in the square disappeared as if they had entered a transmission array. At the same time, those who were not in the square before also rushed into the square and disappeared. Looking at the disappearing crowd, Murong Yu suddenly shook his head. How many people were participating in the trial? Murong Yu did not know, but it was at least a few 100 million. Out of so many people, there were at least 10,000 of them. One could imagine how cruel this trial was. You'd better not enter the trial space, Yang Yishan said to Murong Yu with incomparable resentment. Then, his figure flashed and rushed into the square. At the same time, Ling Han and the others also looked at Murong Yu with a sinister smile and disappeared on the spot. Murong Yu shrugged indifferently and walked into the square with Yang Yin. Suddenly, Murong Yu felt the scenery in front of him change. Then, he appeared in a huge valley. Apart from them, there were many people in the valley. And after Murong Yu entered the valley, those people in the valley had already started fighting. Screams and laughter rose and fell one after another. Hong long long. Murong Yu and Yang Yin had not yet stood firm when an extremely powerful force came down from the sky, enveloping the 2 of them and strangling them. Murong Yu turned to look at Yang Yin and said indifferently, go ahead and kill. Then he stepped out. His figure flickered and disappeared on the spot. The one who attacked Murong Yu and Yang Yun was a middle-aged man in the late stage of the true god realm. At this moment, he was looking at Murong Yu and Yang Yun with a sinister smile, thinking that his sneak attack had succeeded. But soon, he realized that one of them had disappeared, and a strong aura of death suddenly rose in his heart. Pong! Before he could react, a huge fist had already landed on his body. A terrifying power flashed and exploded, as if it wanted to shatter the surrounding void. It directly blasted the late-stage true god into dust. Murong Yu's hand reached out and grabbed the other party's godhead and storage ring. Then, he directly threw them into the storage ring. Everything happened in an instant. It was so fast that Yang Yun did not even have time to react. This trial should have a good harvest. Murong Yu smiled in satisfaction after obtaining a godhead and some resources at the beginning. But soon he was startled. Good fellow, this is definitely a good way to accumulate wealth. What did you say? Yang Yun walked up and looked at Murong Yu with surprise. She was quite interested in Murong Yu's super fast reaction. Every time there are so many people participating in the trial, how many people died here? And this trial space is a magic weapon of the Heavenly Tao sect. Most of the godheads and storage rings of the people who died here fell into the hands of the Heavenly Tao sect. Moreover, the primordial continent is only one of the continents. The Heavenly Tao sect does not only recruit disciples from one or two continents. Every time the Heavenly Tao sect recruits disciples, they collect countless godheads. Yang Yin was also surprised. When I become stronger in the future, I will also get a few of these magic weapons and then go to the major continents to recruit disciples. Wouldn't this be considered as getting both the people and the wealth? Murong Yu thought in his heart. At this time, many people had already rushed over. In the trial space, everyone was an enemy, because they only had 10,000 places. As long as they killed all the people they saw, they would have a chance to become one of the 10,000 people. Therefore, everyone who entered the trial space was like a madman, killing everyone they saw. Don't be lenient. Murong Yu was worried that Yang Yun would be lenient, but before his voice fell, Yang Yun had already rushed to the sky and killed the first true god with a palm. Finally, just like Murong Yu, he collected the other party's godhead and storage rings. Even in the Heavenly Tao sect, it should be a society where the weak are prey to the strong. These people just happen to give us enough godheads and resources. Yang Yun walked back and lightly said, "Well, just pretend I didn't say anything." Murong Yu was also shocked in his heart by Yang Yun's ruthlessness. However, if you want to survive in this world, how can you not be cruel and merciless? Seeing how terrifying Murong Yu and Yang Yun were, the surrounding people couldn't help but walk away. They didn't want to be killed by Murong Yu and Yang Yun. Only those who had just been transported in thought that Murong Yu and Yang Yun were soft persimmons and charged over with a sinister smile, but were killed by Murong Yu and Yang Yun instead. However, very soon, no one was transported in. Looks like we have to take the initiative to attack. In order to ensure that we survive until the end, we have to try our best to get more godheads and various resources. Murong Yu and Yang Yun discussed for a while and decided to take the initiative to attack. Thus, Murong Yu and Yang Yun were like a pair of male and female devils. Everywhere they passed, there was a rain of blood. Below the middle stage of true god, no one was their match. As for late-stage true gods, they hadn't encountered them yet. Of course, late-stage true gods were extremely rare. If there were no accidents, these people would all enter the last 10,000. So boring. Where's Ling Han? Ling Guang? Yang Yishan? Murong Yu killed his way over, leaving corpses everywhere, but didn't encounter Yang Yishan and the others. This made Murong Yu feel bored. However, Murong Yu and Yang Yun began to gradually discover that one after another, teams appeared. These were all people from various forces gathered together. In truth, the trial space was also very large. After being transported in, they would appear in a certain place at random. Previously, if he hadn't held hands with Yang Yun, they probably wouldn't have appeared in the same place. Compared to Murong Yu's ease, Yang Yun was clearly much more nervous. She knew that the first few days weren't very dangerous. And as time continued to pass, the people remaining were all elites. The closer it was to the end, the more dangerous it would be. Little did she know that while Murong Yu was feeling bored, Ling Guang, Yang Yishan, and the others were even more depressed. They very much wanted to kill Murong Yu personally. After not seeing Murong Yu for so long, they were afraid that Murong Yu had been killed by others. If that was the case, they would be bored. It has already been half a month. The weak have all been eliminated, and now we are finally entering the final stage. In the primeval desolation city, in the city lord's mansion, 3 experts of the Tian Dao sect were sitting cross-legged in the hall, looking at a huge screen in front of them. The screen was a huge miniature, which was the trial space. In fact, this magic treasure was very powerful. They didn't need to observe it at all to let everyone complete the trial. Moreover, those who left halfway would also be teleported out, because in the trial space, this book-like magic treasure was their master. There are also many trash who left halfway. These people can't continue to participate in the trial in the future. They have already been taken down by the Mountain and River Secretary and will be denied entry in the future. Speaking of which, there are also a few good seedlings in this batch. The overall strength is a little better than the previous batch. Like that Yang Hao, that Ling Ling, these people's aptitude is not bad. However, did you notice a person? It's this kid, a middle-stage true god. One of the 3 people pointed at a black-clothed youth who was fighting with someone on the screen. This black-clothed youth was none other than Murong Yu. He's just a middle-stage true god. It should be because of Yang Yun's help that he can persist until today. Otherwise, he would have been eliminated long ago. One person said disdainfully. Chapter 834. At this moment, Murong Yu and Yang Yun were surrounded by hundreds of people. Yang Yun's strength was close to the late true god realm. She was very powerful. In addition, she was ruthless. Along the way, no one below the late true god realm was their match. Even though small teams were the same, Murong Yu and Yang Yun killed them on sight. However, not long ago, they bumped into this team. There were more than 100 people. Although there were no late true gods among them, most of them were middle true gods. There were even no true gods among them. This was a disciple of a big force in the Yuan Huang continent. Although it was not as powerful as the Skyway Prefecture and Lingtian Prefecture, it was still a force that could not be underestimated. Most importantly, they had gathered more than 100 people. Before meeting Murong Yu and Yang Yun, this team of more than 100 people had simply crushed them. No one was their match. When they met Murong Yu and Yang Yun, they immediately flew over and surrounded them. Then they attacked. Except for one person who attacked Murong Yu, the rest of them attacked Yang Yun. In just a moment, Yang Yun was in danger. Although she was powerful, she was not a late true god realm expert. Moreover, even if she was a late true god, it would not be easy to be surrounded by more than 100 middle true gods. However, Yang Yun was not afraid. She launched her strongest attack and fought with the opponent. However, she was in imminent danger. She was in danger of dying at any time. It's time for me to show my skills. If I kill a true god realm expert as a true god, will it attract the attention of the experts in the natural law sect? Murong Yu sneered in his heart. Immediately, he soared into the sky and attacked the early true god who was charging toward him. Since when can a true god fly? Seeing Murong Yu suddenly fly and charge toward this side, the early true god was shocked. The early stage true god who was flying over to kill Murong Yu was startled. Idiot! Murong Yu couldn't help but laugh out loud when he saw the other party's movements pause for a moment. Then, he took a step in the air, crossing an immeasurable distance with a single step, and directly rushed in front of the other party. Then his invincible divine fist punched out violently. Bang! The man felt a sharp pain in his abdomen, and his body began to tremble involuntarily. In the next moment, he saw his entire body being drowned by a layer of electric light. Before he could even react, Muronyu's power had already erupted. With a loud bang, this early-stage true god actually didn't even have time to react before he was already blasted into a cloud of blood mist. How is this possible? Inside the City Lord's mansion of the primordial wasteland city, the three powerhouses of the Tian Dao sect who were watching the big screen, the one who had mocked and disdained Muronyu, exclaimed. The scene of Murongyu killing the early-stage true god was clearly seen by them. That brat is only a mid-stage true god, right? How could he kill an early-stage true god with a single punch? The three of them looked at each other, deeply shocked. Maybe it's just a fluke? The three of them looked at each other, and the same thought appeared in their minds. However, Murongyu's next performance destroyed their thoughts. After killing the early-stage true god with a single punch, Murongyu took a step forward and directly rushed toward the 100 people who were besieging Yang Yun. At this time, Yang Yun was in a mess, and her body was covered in blood. There was the blood of the enemy and also her own blood. Yang Yun was already injured. "All of you go to hell!" Murongyu rushed forward, and first he roared. Then, endless electric light erupted from his body. Rumble, in the blink of an eye, the entire void was enveloped by endless lightning. Some of it was the power of Murongyu, and some of it was the tribulation thunder that Murongyu directly summoned. When he was in the cultivation world, Murongyu could already summon the tribulation thunder, let alone now that he had become a true god. The moment the lightning appeared, it enveloped the area and drowned everyone. Seeing the sudden appearance of the lightning, everyone could not help but sneer. One by one, power surged, and the surface of their bodies shone brightly. One by one, power shields appeared on the surface of their bodies, blocking the attack of the lightning. Although the lightning was strong, it was limited by Murongyu's strength. Although the lightning was strong enough, the lightning that Murongyu summoned was obviously not that strong. After these people burst out with their power shields, they could easily block the attack of the lightning. However, did Murongyu really only have this trick up his sleeve? Unknowingly, the power of the space godhead in Murongyu's heart had been activated by him. Space imprisonment, space oscillation. In an instant, everyone felt as though they were imprisoned, and an invisible force imprisoned them in the void. At the same time, the power of the two godheads in Murongyu's body had been activated to the extreme. With a step, he came in front of an early-stage true god, and then he punched out quickly. Boom! Under the true god's disdainful gaze, his body was shattered by Murongyu's punch. In the end, even the blood was blasted into powder by the endless lightning. Space slash! Murongyu roared in his heart, and suddenly a war blade formed by lightning appeared in the air above everyone. Then, under Murongyu's control, the war blade carried a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth, and it slashed down quickly. Puff! Wherever the war blade passed, a few true gods were directly cut in half. Then, under the attack of the lightning, they were turned into powder. Only the godheads were left floating in the air. Kill! Murongyu roared, and the power of the lightning divinity and the space godhead erupted to the extreme. With a slap, a middle-stage true god was killed. At this moment, Murongyu acted as though there was no one around, and his attacks were ruthless. In just a few moments, more than 20 experts were killed by Murongyu, killing people who were at a higher level than him, and it was done in the middle of an encirclement. At this moment, except for Murongyu, everyone was deeply shocked, especially the three experts of the natural law sect. At this moment, they looked at each other and then laughed loudly. This kid is not bad. At the middle stage true god realm, he can kill people who are at a higher level than him, and he can even unleash the power of a middle stage true god. It's really shocking. Compared to this kid, Ling Ling and Yang Hao are too weak. This person must not die. No matter what, we have to take him into the natural law sect. At that time, we will make a great contribution. But what I'm curious about is, how did this kid dare to directly devour the power of the godheads? And it was directly unleashed by him? One of them said strangely. It turned out that in the battle just now, Murong Yu deliberately swallowed a godhead. In fact, Murong Yu did not need to swallow a godhead, because his power was enough for him to unleash his power. However, here was a magic treasure, and Murong Yu knew that his every move would be seen by others. And if he did not want to expose the secret of the godheads, Murong, you could only use the godheads to cover it up. This was a countermeasure he had thought of before entering the trial space. After all, although directly swallowing a godhead was quite shocking, compared to the shock caused by 3 godheads, it was nothing. This kid must not die. However, we can intervene. Let's see how long he can last and enter the 10,000 places. We just need to make sure he doesn't die, and we can intervene in other things. One of the 3 experts of the natural law sect said in a deep voice. The other 2 nodded repeatedly. During the trial process, they could not intervene. However, even if Murong Yu did not enter the 10,000 places in the end, they were qualified to bring him back to the natural law sect. Although I am only a middle-stage true god, but after the power of 2 godheads erupts, I could be compared to a middle-stage true god expert. If 3 godheads erupt at full power, even a late-stage true god would not be afraid. At this time, Murong Yu finally confirmed his peak power. You go to the side and heal your injuries first. Murong Yu slapped Yang Yin away, and at the same time, he sent a stream of life force into Yang Yin's body. At the same time, Murong Yu coldly looked at the remaining dozens of people. His eyes were indifferent, and he said without emotion, "For the sake of the quota, all of you will die. If you don't want to die, immediately choose to withdraw. I will give you 10 breaths of time. Kill him." What answered Murong Yu was the other party's soaring, killing intent. Murong Yu shook his head and felt that his behavior was somewhat funny. Until the last moment, how could these people give up on the 10,000 places? I'm doing this for your own good. Since you don't appreciate it, then all of you can go to hell. Murong Yu said, and took a step forward and directly rushed into the crowd to fight with them. A mere true god can kill us with a strange method. At this time, many people had already broken free from the space imprisonment and attacked Murong Yu. However, Murong Yu smiled slightly and shouted in his heart, "Space imprisonment." As a result, everyone was imprisoned again. Moreover, this was definitely not Murong Yu's final method. God's descent. Murong Yu roared, and then a tall and sturdy golden phantom stepped out from the void, as if a great god had torn time and space and descended from ancient times to modern times. An indescribable power rippled out from the golden phantom, and at this moment, everyone's mind was slightly shaken. They lost their mind. At the same time, Murong Yu grabbed at the void, and the 100 birds worshipping phoenix spear that had been nurtured in his dantian, and it had already advanced to the level of a low-grade divine weapon. He stabbed with the spear. It was as if a hole had been pierced in the sky, and it stabbed toward the middle true god. Poof! The middle true god's protective shield couldn't block Murong Yu's spear at all, and the spear pierced through it directly. Then, the spear stabbed into the middle true god's head. Hum! There was an explosion, and the middle true god's head was blasted into powder. Even at death, he didn't know how he was killed. Chapter 835. What is the grade of the divine weapon in this kid's hand? It can actually penetrate through the shields of those true gods. The 3 experts from the Heavenly Tao sect couldn't help but look at each other in dismay when they saw Murong Yu killing the true gods one by one with his spear. The true gods' barriers were completely ineffective against Murong Yu's spear. Just as they'd seen, those true gods' barriers couldn't stop Murong Yu at all. It was as if the spear in Murong Yu's hand was unstoppable. Everyone who saw this thought that it was because of the phoenix spear. However, they didn't know that this had nothing to do with Murong Yu's spear. This was because of the primal chaos energy. Ever since condensing the primal chaos god lattice, Murong Yu's primal chaos energy became even stronger, especially when his mind entered the primal chaos and saw the limitless primal chaos energy, his understanding of the primal chaos energy became even deeper. It was also at that time that Murong Yu's primal chaos energy underwent a change. Not only did it become more lethal, but it also transformed into King's power. Everything in the world was derived from the primal chaos energy, including other powers. In front of the primal chaos energy, other powers couldn't even withstand a single blow. The primal chaos energy was the king, and other powers were like the ordinary subjects of the king. After seeing the king, they could only submit. Therefore, when Murong Yu's spear was covered with the power of the spear, these true god shields automatically opened up a path when they came into contact with the spear. Because of this, Murong Yu's spear was able to penetrate and kill true gods one after another. After the power of the two primal chaos god lattices erupted, Murong Yu was already equivalent to an ordinary true god. In addition to the king's power of primal chaos energy, he was simply an invincible existence among the intermediate true gods. One spear, one kill. In the blink of an eye, dozens of experts were killed by him. These people were finally afraid. After discovering that the spatial shackles had no effect on them, they started to escape in all directions. In the end, out of the 100 or so people, only 10 or so managed to escape. Murong Yu didn't run away either. Instead, he smiled as he collected the godheads and storage rings of the dozens of people and stored them in his storage ring. The weapon in this kid's hand is definitely strange. In addition to his power, I reckon that no one in the primal wilderness continent is his match. An expert from the Heavenly Tao sect said in a deep voice, "He's only a true god. What if he's a higher realm? If he joins our Tian Tao sect, it is very likely that our Tian Tao sect will become stronger because of him. It is also possible for us to become the overlord of the dream wilderness. We must report this to the sect master." The three of them stared at Murong Yu on the screen with shining eyes, as if they were looking at a treasure. "Hey, come back to life." Murong Yu walked over to the shocked Yang Yun and waved his hand in front of her. "Murong Yu, true primal chaos, primal heaven?" Yang Yun asked after taking a deep breath and suppressing the shock and excitement in his heart. "Sort of." Murong Yu smiled. His true strength was the power of three divine deity erupting at the same time, but there was no need to reveal it now. That was his trump card. "I still underestimated you. As a middle true god, killing true gods was like slaughtering dogs. Right now, I'm afraid you can easily kill me." Yang Yin said with a bitter smile. "Not necessarily. If you have some kind of powerful divine artifact or cultivation method, it would still be difficult for me to kill you." Murong Yu said very honestly. "Divine artifact?" Yang Yin shook her head. She knew how hard it was to get a good divine artifact in the divine realm. Ordinary low-grade and middle-grade divine artifacts didn't have much power. However, high-grade and top-grade divine artifacts were extremely rare even in the god realm. Furthermore, the divine artifact was an external force after all. Only when one's own strength was one's true strength. What's so strange about your divine weapon? Those true gods' protective shield couldn't block it at all? On the way, Yang Yin looked at the phoenix spear that Murong Yu was carrying on his back and said, "It's just an ordinary low-grade divine artifact." Murong Yu threw the phoenix spear to Yang Yin. Yang Yin received it and injected her power into it to test it. She discovered that there was nothing special about the spear. At least, it was the same as the low-grade divine artifact in her hands. "Now you should believe that I can make you a disciple of the Heavenly Tao sect." Murong Yu kept the spear and said with a smile, "I've always believed it." Yang Yin looked at Murong Yu and said seriously, with the strength that Murong Yu had just displayed, it was certain that they would enter the 10,000 places, as long as they didn't encounter those late true gods. "Murong Yu, stop right there." At this moment, a roar came from the side of Murong Yu and Yang Yin. The powerful sound wave caused the trees in the mountains to rustle. "Someone is coming to die." A look of excitement appeared on Murong Yu's face as he turned his head to look, only to see a figure rapidly dashing over. It was Yang Yishan, the elite disciple of Skywave Prefecture. It's him? It shouldn't be a problem for me to kill the people of Skywave Prefecture, right? Morongyu turned his head and looked at Yang Yin. In the process of a trial, they deserve to die. That's because they weren't strong enough. Besides, Skywave Prefecture won't decline because of his death, Yang Yin said calmly. To survive in this cruel world, one must have the courage to face death at any time. In Yang Yin's opinion, it didn't matter if all the people of Skywave Prefecture died in the trial space. As long as she entered the Heavenly Tao sect and became a disciple, Skywave Prefecture would not be destroyed. Skywave Prefecture's power would soar because of her. In that case, I won't stand on ceremony. Morongyu turned his head and looked at Yang Yishan, who was rushing toward him with a murderous look with a flash of killing intent on his face. Son of a bitch, I've been praying that you would be killed by me instead of others. Looks like my prayers have been answered. Yang Yishan's eyes were filled with hatred as he looked at Morongyu with a malevolent expression. Then he turned his head to Yang Yin and said with a grim smile, You bitch, after I kill this son of a bitch, I'll deal with you and make you happy under my crotch. Huh? Yang Yin was furious, and a flash of killing intent appeared in her heart. She didn't want to fight with Yang Yishan because she knew that he couldn't be arrogant for long. Yang Yishan's strength was similar to hers. Neither of them was Morongyu's opponent. Shut up, Morongyu suddenly shouted. Yang Yishan was an elite disciple of Skywave Prefecture, but he didn't care about his manners. This made Morongyu want to kill him even more. Go to hell. Yang Yishan bellowed as he sent a palm strike towards Morongyu from the sky. He wanted to slap Morongyu to death with a single palm strike. Morongyu grabbed the spear on his back and swung it like a stick without any technique. Then, he ruthlessly smashed it down on Yang Yishan's head. Bang! Yang Yishan's big hand was smashed by Morongyu's spear. Yang Yishan was sent flying like a broken rag doll. On the other hand, Morongyu's body only swayed slightly. An outstanding disciple of the Skywave Mansion is nothing more than this. Morongyu sneered as he soared into the air and charged forward. The long spear stabbed at Yang Yishan like a poisonous snake. Yang Yishan was shocked. He hurriedly threw out a punch, but as expected, his power was shattered once again, and he was sent flying again. The powerful thunderbolt power engulfed him and even entered his body, killing his body, meridians, blood, flesh, and even bones. In a flash, his body was severely injured. Puff! Yang Yishan spat out a mouthful of blood. He was completely defeated and couldn't withstand a single blow. Yang Yishan was shocked. He realized he had provoked someone he shouldn't have. Thus, his figure flashed, and he flew into the distance. He escaped. Where do you think you're going? Morongyu wanted to kill him. How could he let him escape? With the troop formula under his feet, he was as fast as a dart. He turned into a ray of light and rushed behind Yang Yishan. At the same time, Morongyu stabbed at Yang Yishan with his spear. At this moment, Yang Yishan suddenly felt that he was enveloped by a strong aura of death. Stop! Just as Morongyu stabbed out with his long spear, a loud shout came from afar. At the same time, a monstrous hand reached out from the sky above Morongyu's head and grabbed at Yang Yishan. Morongyu snorted coldly in his heart. His strength increased again, and the long spear stabbed forward. With a bang, Yang Yishan let out a scream. Morongyu's long spear pierced through Yang Yishan. He was killed by Morongyu. In fact, Yang Yishan was out of his mind. If he wanted to withdraw from the trial, Morongyu couldn't kill him. But this guy didn't do so, so he was killed by Morongyu. After killing Yang Yishan with one spear, Morongyu's other hand quickly reached out and put away Yang Yishan's godhead and storage ring. At this time, the monstrous hand slapped down. Morongyu's figure flashed, and he retreated quickly. Morongyu, how dare you kill an elite disciple of my Skywave Prefecture? A voice filled with murderous intent rang out from behind Morongyu. Then a young man came from afar. It was Yang Hao, the strongest young man in Skywave Prefecture. Morongyu indifferently looked at Yang Hao and said, So what if I killed him? What are you going to do about it? Yang Hao looked at Morongyu with a gloomy face. His heart was filled with killing intent. Then he looked at Yang Yun and said, Yang Yun, we didn't stop him from killing Yang Yishan. Stop him? Why should I stop him? Yang Yishan is just a trash. So what if he's dead? Yang Yun said indifferently, not caring about Yang Hao at all. Chapter 836. Hearing Yang Yun's words, Yang Hao's face darkened. However, he knew that Yang Yun was telling the truth. In this trial space, everyone was his enemy. The more people he killed, the higher his chances of becoming a disciple of Heaven's sect. Moreover, although they were both from Skywave Prefecture, Yang Hao and Yang Yishan were not close. However, he did not intend to let Murong Yu go. Killing Yang Yishan was one thing, but Murong Yu actually didn't give him any face. Murong Yu had even killed Yang Yishan right after he'd spoken. This made Yang Hao feel very displeased. Moreover, Murong Yu had nothing to do with him. As Yang Yun said, he killed him. Thus, Yang Hao slowly walked towards Murong Yu with a murderous look on his face. Feeling Yang Hao's killing intent, Murong Yu became excited. Although Yang Hao was in the middle stage, true God realm. However, Murong Yu could sense that this wasn't his true strength. Yang Hao was definitely in the late stage, true God realm. However, Murong Yu did not feel much danger from him. Although Yang Hao was strong, there was still a big gap between him and Linghu Changtian, the governor of Ascension City. After all, Linghu Changtian was a veteran late-stage, true God realm. Thinking of Linghu Changtian, Murong Yu frowned slightly. He had not seen Linghu Changtian since he left Ghost Realm. Even when he was in Primeval City, Linghu Changtian did not appear. He did not know what Linghu Changtian was doing. Did he really think that Murong Yu had died in Ghost Realm? You want to kill me? Murong Yu looked at the approaching Yang Hao and sneered. He continued, You'd better think it through. If you dare to do it, I can tell you for sure that this trial space will be your burial ground. If Murong Yu used 3 godheads, he was confident that he could kill Yang Hao. So what if he was a late-stage true god? However, Murong Yu did not want to make a move here. In the trial space, it was already very shocking for him to be able to kill a mid-stage true god. If he were to explode with an even greater power, it would not be as simple as shocking. As the saying goes, treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. If Murong Yu's performance was too heaven-defying, it was hard to guarantee that the people of the natural law school would not have ideas about him. Of course, if they were in the wilderness, he would definitely kill Yang Hao. Yang Hao's figure paused for a moment when he heard this. Then, a smile appeared on his face as disdain flashed across his eyes. You probably think that you're invincible after killing Yang Yishan? How arrogant. I don't dare to say that I'm invincible, but killing you isn't a problem. If you don't want to die or lose the chance to become a disciple of the Tian Dao sect, then come up. Murong Yu floated in the air and looked at Yang Hao calmly without fear. However, Yang Hao hesitated. Murong Yu's performance was very heaven-defying. As the saying goes, one can never be too careful. What if Murong Yu really has the ability to kill him? Won't he die unjustly? Well, I'll find a chance to kill him after the trial. The most important thing now is to make sure that I become a disciple of the Tian Dao sect. Yang Hao made a decision in his heart and glanced at Murong Yu indifferently. Then, he took a step forward and flew into the distance. He left just like that. Yang Yun heaved a sigh of relief. Although she showed no fear before, she was very nervous in her heart. Although she knew that Murong Yu was powerful, Yang Hao was the strongest among the young generation of the Skyway Prefecture. His strength was not just for show. In fact, she did not believe in Murong Yu and his strength. You seem to be a little afraid of him. Murong Yu came back and said to Yang Yun indifferently. Yang Yun heaved a sigh of relief and rolled his eyes at Murong Yu. After all, he's the #1 expert of the Skywave Prefecture's younger generation. His aptitude is much higher than mine. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't fear him. Soon, you will find that Yang Hao is just so-so, because you will soon surpass him. I hope so. Yang Yin did not express her opinion. In fact, she had no confidence in surpassing Yang Hao. But she did not know that in the near future, she would not only surpass Yang Hao, but also leave Yang Hao in the dust. Yang Hao could only look at her back. It was too late to catch up. Where are we going now? Of course, the center of the trial space. Morongyu smiled. The trial space was a magic treasure. After a period of time, the space inside would constantly shrink. The purpose of this was to prevent some people from thinking that they could get lucky. The trial space was so big that people would appear in a random place. Some of the lucky ones went into hiding after they were teleported in. They planned to wait until the last moment and only come out after they entered the top 10,000. The trial space was so big. If the trial challengers were allowed to search inside, how long would it take to gather the final 10,000 people? Therefore, after a period of time, the trial space would gradually shrink toward the center. In this way, many people could not hide. They could only come out and participate in the bloody trial until they reached the top 10,000. Along the way, Morongyu and Yang Yun met many people, but they did not know whether it was because they were lucky or there were no experts in the trial space. No one who had reached the late stage, true God realm appeared. As for people of other realms, they were all killed by Morongyu in the first place. They had no choice but to attack first because Morongyu and Yang Yun were only two people. Most importantly, Morongyu was only in the true God realm, so everyone thought he was a pushover. Along the way, Morongyu killed a few people from the Lingtian mansion, but he did not see Ling Guang and the others. As for the people from the Skywave Prefecture, except for Yang Yishan and Yang Hao, he did not see anyone else. Morongyu, you're finally here. I thought you were dead. When Morongyu was near the center of the trial space, Ling Guang's voice came. Then Ling Guang jumped down from a nearby peak and stood in front of Morongyu. He had been waiting here for many days, because he had been nearby since he appeared. Ling Guang, I finally see you. That's great. When Morongyu saw Ling Guang, a smile immediately appeared on his face. With a cordial expression, he quickly walked towards Ling Guang. However, Ling Guang looked at Morongyu as if he was looking an idiot. You've been beaten, silly. Don't misunderstand. I'm not happy because I see you. Although you're a little dumb, you should have killed a lot of people with your strength, right? Their storage rings, their godhoods, and so on. TSK. You're actually so kind as to give them to me? I'm really grateful. Damn it, go and die. Ling Guang thought something was wrong at first, but when he heard Morongyu's words, he thought he was here to die. Thus, with a loud roar, he took a step forward and charged towards Morongyu. At the same time, he threw out a punch. Let me tell you something. Not long ago, Yang Yishan was killed by me. Morongyu suddenly said. Huh? Ling Guang was indeed shocked, and his actions paused for a moment. At this moment, Morongyu made his move. 1,000 Army Elephant Fist. Morongyu roared as he sent out a punch, which collided with Ling Guang's incoming fist. Boom! After a loud noise, Ling Guang's big hand was directly shattered. At the same time, Morongyu's big hand burst out with endless thunder and lightning, rushing into Ling Guang's body through his hand. Ling Guang couldn't help but tremble. His body was paralyzed, and his strength was greatly hindered, as if it had fallen into a swamp. I really killed Yang Yishan. Morongyu sneered and punched Ling Guang's head, who was paralyzed all over. A huge force exploded, and Ling Guang's head was immediately smashed like a rotten watermelon. At the same time, Morongyu's other hand slapped Ling Guang's body, directly smashing his whole body, except for his godhead. This guy is so pitiful. Yang Yun walked up and didn't forget to look down on the already dead Ling Guang. Can't even withstand a single blow. Morongyu clapped his hands and said indifferently, but his eyes seemed to be inadvertently looking into the distance. On a mountain very far away from Morongyu, the number 1 person of Ling Tian Mansion, Ling Ling, was standing alone in the wind, looking at everything in the distance. After seeing Morongyu kill Ling Guang with a punch, her expression didn't change at all. However, when she saw Morongyu's gaze, which was piercing through the void, there was a hint of light in her eyes. However, she still didn't do anything. She's just like the legends say. Apart from cultivation, She doesn't care about anything else. I wonder if she'll still be able to maintain her indifferent appearance if I kill her parents. Murongyu thought to himself with a wicked sense of humor. This guy is really strong. On another mountain, a group of elite disciples of Ling Tian Mansion gathered together, and Ling Han was the strongest among them. Not far from Ling Han were the people of Skywave Mansion, and Yang Hao was among them. Apart from them, there were many other people nearby. They were either in groups or by themselves. Murongyu, don't be careless. The next period of time would be the most dangerous. Those who are able to come here are all true experts. We can't afford to fail miserably, Yang Yun warned with a solemn expression. Just don't go too far away from me. Otherwise, I'm afraid I can't protect you. Murongyu said indifferently and then walked forward. Yang Yun felt helpless. She was an elite disciple of Skywave Mansion. However, in front of Murongyu, her strength was really not enough. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.